Good evening. Before we start our regular agenda, I would like to ask that we take a moment of silence.
It's really hard
tonight.
to figure it out.
We last week lost one of our District 59 students, Eric Alfaro, an 8th grader at Grove, in a tragic accident, and we would just like to honor his memory for just a moment of silence tonight. So please join me. Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to our board president for the rest of the meeting.
Can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Will our friendship student start us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4.0, presentations. I guess Principal Wheatley from Friendship Junior High. I guess you have a bunch of special students here for us to give us some lovely music and some other information.
Absolutely. So first, thank you for having us here tonight. We have quite a few students here with us this evening. To really, our presentation is highlighting student-led leadership, especially coming back from the pandemic. So I think that's one thing that this could be difficult at times to truly engage your community, and I think these students have really knocked it out of the park. And that's who we're celebrating tonight and the work that they did. So I know that we do have that presentation. That kind of. And I'll invite up Mrs. Blue and Mrs. Osterman to introduce their students.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Samantha Blue. I'm the counselor at Friendship. Nice to see your smiling faces. I feel like you guys are celebrities that I watch on my computer, so it's nice to see you in person. I have two amazing ambassadors here that are stepping up to present for us tonight. I have Anushka and VNA. And so we're going to get you kicked off with our presentation, and then we'll go back and forth with Student Senate.
Hi, I'm Peggy Asterman, Janet Konezny. We do Student Senate at Friendship. We have a couple of students here as well. I was going to say, missing a few. Okay. So we have Timothy Daniel, we have Dia Patel, we have Alexis Zaharia, Miriam Shoeva, Carlos Capetillo, and Jake Pepsnick. So we're going to go back and forth, so ambassadors and then Student Senate. And we do a lot of dress up, so that's why we look the way we do. So, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, you guys can start. Yeah.
So here are the following list of roles that ambassadors have. You have to lead tours for new students, be a positive role model, initiate and engage in conversation with peers, create a sense of community and belonging, present to incoming 6th graders, lead team building activities.
And the responsibilities for a member of Student Senate is to be active in school, learning how to be a part of a team, showing by example through participation, representing our school, inspiring others to do great things, trying to include everyone and considering everyone's ideas, making decisions for the whole student body.
Ambassadors is a new program at Friendship that helps to welcome and support the transition of new and incoming students. This also helps us practice leadership skills. It also helps us build relationships and sense of belonging. To become an ambassador, we're nominated to apply for the program. We're nominated because we're positive leaders and role models that want to make a positive impact on our friendship community. Once the application process is complete, then we are trained by Mrs. Blue.
Student Senate is a club that organizes activities, fundraisers, and spirit days for our school. A club focused on beautifying our school and making it a better place. A club that hosts fundraisers to help people and organizations in need. The place where students can share ideas and on how to make school more special. The place where students share ideas on how to make a school a safe place for all. A place where students help with making decisions for the whole school.
Our main responsibilities as ambassadors are to give tours to new students, answer their questions, help them with their lockers, and bring them to their first class. For 6th grade orientation, we showed students and families classrooms, grade level hallways, and answered any questions that they had. Coming up, we will be presenting graders and answering their burning questions about friendship to ease their anxiety about coming to junior high. Then in August, we will be leading the team building activities and helping 6th graders acclimate to friendship before the school year begins.
The responsibility of Student Senate is being expected to come to every meeting on Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m., contributing my ideas and opinions to discussions, agreeing with others, but also getting my say, striving to make our school a safe place and a good place to be at, organizing activities, creating flyers or posters, and advertising spirit days, helping with fundraisers and participating in everything the group decided, inspiring and informing my classmates, and making the school year more enjoyable.
This is a visual presentation of the keywords from our applications of why we wanted to be an ambassador. As you can see, the following keywords are larger, meaning more of us listed this as a reason why we wanted this role. A majority of us wanted this role to make others feel welcome, comfortable, be positive, role models, have fun, learn new skills, and create community.
My communication skills have definitely evolved. My leadership skills have improved so much since last year. I feel more confident in my saying my opinion and being heard. It has made me more responsible since I've had to come in at 7 a.m. each Wednesday. This role has given me the opportunity to be more responsible and to have a voice in what goes on in my school. I know what happens a lot more at my school. It helps me to understand my classmates and other students better, and it's been great to see people have fun.
We have made the following impacts. We have helped new students find their classes and learn their locker combinations. We have given tours to new 6th grade families. We have become a buddy to new students. We have made them feel welcome and answered questions. We have showed that we cared by trying to get to know them on the tour.
I know when to take charge if I need to, and I know when to step down. I've shared plans with my classmates. I've helped make the school and year more enjoyable and fun. I've come up with multiple ideas. I'm a voice for other students. We made people actually want to come to school. These are some pictures we took on our Spirit Days.
And then we also brought some visuals so they can kind of just walk across. So the first couple are from Red Ribbon Week. So if you want to walk that way, but so Red Ribbon Week, each day we did something different. So like I said, we do a lot of dress up. So that's what those were the different ones that we did for this year. We've had other activities like pumpkin carving and
Slow down.
we put
Okay.
hearts and shamrocks on lockers.
Very good. Ketchup, I got that real fast.
So
And mustard.
we have our kindness challenge for you, and then we put hearts and shamrocks on lockers, so we put a heart and shamrock on our kindness too.
Green pumpkin, I like that.
Those are really well done.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
So, and we did opposite day, which is why we have some salt and some pepper and some dog and cat and mustard ketchup. Old man, old woman, you know.
So most of these pictures were taken during 6th grade orientation night for students and families on April 28th. So some of our upcoming presentations to incoming 6th graders on May 20th, we will be answering their questions about friendship and what it means to be a Firebird. The goal of this is to make students feel more welcome and comfortable and prepared. Then in early August, we will be partnering up with Elk Grove Youth Services to run team building activities to incoming 6th graders and to create community and sense of belonging.
The biggest upcoming event would be the 8th grade graduation dance, which we have been working quite hard on. We worked together to find a theme, decorations, and handouts. We drew maps and picked point people to go to when we stay after school on May 20th. We worked together to plan the entire event.
Does anybody have any questions?
So what is the theme for the dance?
It's Hollywood or red carpet.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Very cool. Dances are wonderful. To dance.
First one in a while.
So you guys, is this the first year of doing the ambassadors program?
Yeah, due to friendship, first year.
Awesome. And so how do you feel it's been like welcoming the 6th graders? Like, do you feel like you're seeing that it's making a difference in like the hospitality of your school?
I mean, when we were in 6th grade, we felt the same way, so we can like relate to them. So like from their perspective, we can see what questions they have and we can help them out.
Awesome.
And for the student senate, did you have an election?
Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little about it? Use the microphone. Grab the so the folks on the million people watching on YouTube can hear us. No pressure.
Yeah, don't make them nervous.
Yeah. Just make sure it's green. Yeah. Tell us about the elections. How did that go?
So in the beginning of the year, we did an election, and everybody did campaigns, posters in the hallway, everything. First, we selected the president, and then vice president, and then the rest of the cabinet, as you would say. Yeah, it was a very fun to do. See all the posters in the hallway, see the school spirit.
You had to give a speech?
I haven't, but I'm going to give one at graduation, so I'm very excited for that.
For the election, we got Mr. President right here. Got elected president, and I was elected vice president. We ran together, like helping each other out, like I would scream in the hallways, vote Jake. We printed posters. We just did whatever we could to like get our name out there because we really wanted to help out the school, share our ideas.
And you know, the thing that's really great about it is that there's so many similarities about what we do here as a school board and what you guys do. I mean, try to make things enjoyable for everybody, how to make the schools better. We joined the school board because it's fun, right? It's fun. But it's yes. But it's those skills, not only as a student senate, but as an ambassador of being student leaders. The kids that are new to the school and they're going to look up to you guys. You guys are going to be those role models, and you guys can set that example, and that's what you guys are doing. So that's an awesome job.
Thank you.
Did you guys have anything you specifically wanted to change or wanted to do? The reason why you wanted to run, or is there something you just?
Well, we had just come back from a tough year, cutting off our 6th grade year short and then having our 7th grade year online. And we just wanted to make the school a more fun place, a better place, like make it better for everyone in general.
And for our last year, we just wanted to make it special for everybody, seeing the tough years that we had in the past. So we just wanted to be a part of that and help out.
Well, you certainly deserve to, or should, give a good round of applause to the two people at the end, because I just love your costume.
What a question for the ambassadors. What do you guys see with the new students? Are they nervous when you guys meet them the first time? How do they interact with you?
They're pretty nervous. They are like kind of scared to ask questions when we go to them. But then when they're like feeling comfortable after like the teacher talks to them or something, then they would come up and be like, "Oh, I have a question about this," and they're like feeling more welcomed.
Awesome.
I can tell you guys that as the mom of an incoming 6th grader at a different 59 school, I just think even your guys' familiar faces for those that you went to elementary school with, just seeing you with your t-shirt, knowing you're an ambassador, knowing you're available for questions for them, it makes a big difference. So I just thank all you guys for being willing to serve your school in that way.
I have a couple questions for the ambassadors. So is it only like 8th graders that are ambassadors?
There's 6th, 7th, and
Yeah.
So there's representatives from each grade's helping? And then the new buddy system, when you mentioned that is for like students that have transferred in or moved into the school after the school year started then?
Mhm.
So you team up with someone in their grade or just?
Yes. So if like someone from 7th grade just came or is new, then an ambassador that's a 7th grader would help them out so they don't feel a lot nervous. And like the 7th graders, they could talk and like, like relate to each other maybe. And that's why each grade level has an ambassador.
Thank you. And then my question for the student senate is, are you all 8th graders or is the student senate is there some for every grade?
There's some for every grade, but we all come together.
And how many events did you guys actually plan? Because I mean, looking at all that stuff, looks like you had something going on almost every week, it looked like.
Much less than in previous years. So this was a slow year because we were just getting back and everything was still separated and 6 feet this and mask that and whatever. So definitely less than in previous years. But what are some of the things we did? Carlos, what did you have to do when Jake was born?
We had a fundraiser, and the goal was to, when we reached a certain amount of money, we had to like get pied, and it was pied the president, but somebody had to be absent for a little, so vice president had to step up.
Yeah.
Get my hair a little dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
What was the fundraiser for?
Yeah.
Remember we got gift cards for.
Oh yeah, the fundraisers for all the gift cards for a raffle for students.
Awesome.
But gift cards for families in our school who needed
Oh yeah.
for Christmas
For
gifts.
Christmas time, buying presents and food for anybody who needs.
Awesome. And remember, you want to set your goals high. So pie the president's going to make you a lot of money, but pieing the principal, that may break the bank.
It was a combination.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which one tipped it over, but we did make our goal. So
Great.
I don't know if it was the president or the principal, but they all got that.
Awesome. Well, if you ever need a pie the school board member, I will be there and I will get pie. So you let me know.
Way to take one for the
Yeah.
team.
Are there any questions?
I think we have a lot of proud parents in the audience too. which-
So before we go,
Congratulations
can we
to
get
all
you
of
guys up here in front for a quick picture? And the parents, if you take, I know you're gonna take some pictures of your students too, so come on up, ambassadors. You can come up too.
Yeah, so stand right here in the front, face your moms and dads and
We'll put it on
parents.
Twitter and
Get a little closer to the table back here. Why don't you guys step back? Yeah. And everybody kind of bunch in and mom and dad, you guys feel free to stand up and
I know.
get close.
I know they're so tall.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing heels.
Yeah.
This is why I stopped teaching.
Well, come on, the teacher. Come on.
No.
Okay, these two, yes. You're gonna wear the outfit. You gotta.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Right?
Perfect. All right.
Will you start?
Here, Ryder.
Actually, if you want me to just bring him over to the table, that'd be awesome.
You're okay. We'll let them out.
Good evening. We are happy to be here this evening. The students in front of you today represent both the choral classes and the ukulele club. The choir program at Friendship has more than 85 total students involved. The ukulele club has 35 students participate this year. We will perform to you 2 songs for you. First, I Lift My Voice by Andrea Ramsey. Second, we will sing Count on Me as performed by Bruno Mars.
Before you begin, if any parents want to get a video, you can kind of go over there and get a video if you want a better video or picture for your students.
Yeah, feel free to move around.
Yeah. Don't make it. Yeah, it's. Thank you very much. Does anybody want to ask any questions or?
For the ukulele players, did you play before, or did you learn it all? How long have you been playing the ukulele?
I've been playing since second quarter because it was one of our classes in that Mrs. Z taught us.
I've been playing probably since.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, I've been playing probably since like end of first quarter, second quarter.
I've been playing since I was 6. I took lessons.
Oh, and I started 2 weeks ago. Well, you sounded wonderful.
Thank
The
you.
singers and the players, very good.
Were you a little nervous? Just a little? Yeah? You did a wonderful job.
I was wondering, are you nervous for us or the million people watching on YouTube? I think there's more. Why don't you guys come up here? We'll get pictures with you guys with the choir and the ukulele players.
So go stand there for like the.
Come all along.
Sorry. Are there any activities you guys don't do? Like,
we're everywhere.
Just wait about 15 years.
Used to have a little kidney.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Good evening. We are now on to item 5.0, publics and comments. Public comments and suggestions from the public. Oh. Is there anybody here to come and speak before the board? All right, we will move on to item 6.0, district presentation, special education. Dr. DeGray, I'm assuming that you're up.
I did warn her that she was following these students, so she has been duly warned.
All right, so thank you for giving me some time today to talk about special education in District 59. This is our kind of intro overview. What is special education and how does it look in our district? So you recall this graphic. You saw it during the MTSS presentation. I have it here just as a review. So we have a clear understanding that special ed exists as part of the multi-tiered system of supports.
We're just gonna do all kinds of stuff. Just go ahead. Good luck starting.
I don't even have any instruments or anything. Okay. Just trying to get all the glitches out before anybody else has to come up here. All right, so we move back and forth here in the multi-tiered system of supports, and special ed is part of that. All right, so as we think about special education, we want to start with the idea that special ed is governed by federal law. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or the IDEA, is the federal law that governs special education, and there are several important provisions that are part of that law that I'd like to talk about a little bit today, and then talk about how they impact us at a district level. We'll begin with what we call zero reject or child find, which is the district's responsibility to seek out and identify students with disabilities who live in our geographical area, regardless of whether they attend our schools. So what that means for us as a district is that our obligations begin to students before they become eligible for special education services. So you can see how this aligns with MTSS in terms of teams meeting on and determining interventions and potentially evaluating students who are struggling. And so what we have is that when a child is recommended for an evaluation, the district has to respond with why we will or will not conduct an evaluation. So once it is determined that an evaluation is necessary, we are then responsible for conducting a non-discriminatory evaluation to assess for the purposes of determining eligibility, designing educational programming, and setting up individual performance monitoring. So what that means to us as a district is that we evaluate for all areas of known or suspected need or disability. And so our evaluation team could include some or all of the professionals who are listed here in this first bullet. That team would meet with parents and determine which assessments are necessary and appropriate to be included for the evaluation of each student. When we finish that meeting, parents then provide informed written consent to say that we can proceed with the evaluation. All right, once evaluations are conducted, the team then meets to determine whether a student qualifies in one or more of these 14 specific disability categories in Illinois. And so special education is really a three-pronged test. The first, eligibility for special education is a three-pronged test. The first is, does a student meet the disability category or disability criteria associated with one or more of these categories? The second is there an adverse effect to their educational performance? And the third is, do they require specially designed instruction in order to make progress? So once a child is determined eligible, we then have to say, okay, what is a free appropriate public education, or FAPE, for that student? And so FAPE is special education and related services provided at a public expense to meet the state standards and in conformity with the individualized education program, which is decided on a case-by-case basis. So we'll talk about what that is. First, we want to talk about special education. What is it really? And the purpose of special education is to meet the unique needs of a student with a disability to help that student learn and make progress in the general education curriculum. So it is based on a child's present levels, where they start. And it may include academics, physical, motor, again, the things that come out of that evaluation in terms of the student needs. And instruction in special education may occur in different settings. Some are here, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in just a minute. So what FAPE, or Free Appropriate Public Education, means to us, again, we have to design a program to meet a student's unique needs. And that program does need to include special education and related services. The program is really designed to prepare students for further education, employment, and independent living. So you can see the alignment with the district's mission in terms of what it is that we're trying to do for kids through the special education programming. FAPE is defined for each student through his or her IEP. And the IEP really is the document that says what the district is going to do in order to meet the needs of the student. So the IEP is developed during a meeting in which parents participate, and we talk about assessment results, we develop a program, and then we talk about placement. IEPs have to be in place by the beginning of the school year, and LEAs, or us, the district, are responsible for developing, implementing, and revising those plans. So just to give you kind of a visual of the way this process works, we review the assessments and develop present levels. We then look at the educational program. So we go present levels, what is the data that we know? What are the goals that we're going to set based on student needs? What are the services that are going to be required in order for students to meet those goals? How are we going to monitor their progress? And then we look at student placement. And this is very important that these things happen in this order. That placement really comes last as part of the educational program and in the IEP. That is because special education is a service, not a place. So sometimes we think about people saying things like kids are in special education as though it is a location. Special education is a service that we determine that students need. The placement comes last. So it is a service, not a place. So when we're talking about that placement conversation, we have to consider the least restrictive environment. And this comes from that, going back to that IDEA, that special education law, which tells us that to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities should be educated with children without disabilities. And that removal from regular education can only occur when, with the use of supplementary aids and services, their education cannot be achieved satisfactorily. Now, what that means is that the district maintains a continuum of services and that this is an individualized determination for each student. So what you see on this continuum here are 5 options, but the truth is that there are tons of different options that live within these. So a student might be in general education for math and be in a special education class for reading. They live at all different places throughout the continuum, and those are individually determined. And then there are some inappropriate things for us when we're considering least restrictive environment. So what we cannot do is say things like, we place all of our students with intellectual disabilities here, or we don't serve students with autism in this building. So it can't be students are placed according to the category of their disability. It has to be based on need. We also cannot place students in more restrictive environments because of their behavior without evidence of behavior intervention attempts with fidelity over time and based on a functional behavior assessment. So in other words, we have to systematically intervene with students' behavior. We have to intervene, we have to take data, we have to adjust if kids are not making the progress that we would anticipate. So I do want to do a little bit of further discussion about the least restrictive environment and some of the terms that you might hear. And I'm including these because as we work towards our strategic plan goals and looking at inclusive environments, the difference between these terms is more than semantic. Mainstreaming is a term that you might hear in special education. It is a dated term, and it is really based on this idea that kids can go into these settings when they are ready to do everything that they're supposed to do in this setting. An inclusive model says it is our job as the adults to ensure that settings can be made ready for students, that we can meet their needs. And so this is, again, going back to the idea that LRE is determined individually for each child, and making sure that we understand the language that we're using and the importance of these different terms. All right, so parent involvement is a very important piece of special education. And parents are afforded many rights in special education that sort of exceed those that they have as parents of students without disabilities. So in our procedural safeguards, parent rights are outlined in terms of when parents are afforded notice, when they must consent, and what they can do if they disagree with any decisions made by the school district. All right, so let's talk about what special ed looks like here. In District 59, as of December 1st, which is the state's date to do their special ed enrollment count, we had 831 students with IEPs. 775 of those received their services in District 59 buildings. The others received services in NSSEO schools, private day schools, some parentally placed or homeschooled. Our population of students who receive special education services is about 13% of our district enrollment. And you can see in terms of our students with IEPs, so this is from our 2021 school report card, this is how our population shakes out in terms of the percentage that each of those disability categories makes up of the population of all of our students with disabilities. So you can see that speech learning, speech language impairment is our largest group, followed by specific learning disability and then developmental delay. Some of our other groups have very small numbers. So our current educational services staff, we have 5.6 coordinators. One of those is a health coordinator. One is a coordinator for our educational life skills program. We have a 0.6 coordinator at our early learning center. And we have 3 coordinators who work with all the other buildings. We also have 19 early childhood teachers, and those teachers are among some of the most highly certified teachers in our district, early childhood special ed, and usually ESL. We have 53 special education teachers, 17 of whom are associated with programs, and 3 of whom are inclusion facilitators. We have 18 school psychologists, 20 school social workers, 25 speech paths, 17 nurses, and we will add for next year, thank you to your support and working with NSSEO, 7 occupational therapists and 2 physical therapists. All right, so in terms of focus and future directions, these are really the overarching areas of focus for us in our department. We're looking at database decision-making, and this will really improve our programming overall from evaluation to present levels and goal setting to implementing services in a way that marks fidelity for the curricula and resources that people are using, onto measuring progress of students. We want to strengthen inclusive practices overall from a general and special education perspective, and we want to focus on professional learning on all of those things. So moving on to these future directions, you can see that they're aligned with the district's strategic plan in terms of equitable opportunities for participation, this global understanding that really is important because high quality special education programming is dependent on general and special educators being able to leverage their collective knowledge and skills in order to benefit kids with disabilities. We want to create the conditions for positive inclusive opportunities, and we want to expand parent engagement opportunities. So from a board perspective, thinking about resource allocation, providing professional learning opportunities for all staff will be needed because we do in our district, the same way as with the rest of our equity work, which is really where this aligns, need to look at some cultural shifts relative to who is responsible for educating students with disabilities and where those students should be educated. We also know that staffing allocations are generally higher in inclusive models. So as we work to support students with disabilities across settings, there could be some staffing implications there. And then we have Parent University, which you all know began at the early childhood level this year. And we also began some other parent education on the IEP process this year, and that will be expanded to include more of our families next year. And that is my presentation and time. So what are questions that you have for me?
I have a question. So when we do the evaluation, like the first slide, staff does an evaluation, they present it to the parent. Does the parent need, what if the parent pushes back and says, no, they don't need any services, or they don't agree with the evaluation?
So there are several points at which the district does not proceed if we don't have written parent consent. And one of those is the consent for the initial provision of services. So when we do an evaluation, we present we share the information with the parent, we present that information at a meeting. And we then talk through, does the student not qualify as a student with a disability? Let's say autism. The parent then has the ability to say, yes or no, I accept those services. If the parent says no, that is generally the end of that conversation. There are some other legal avenues, but generally speaking, if parents don't consent, they don't consent.
Is there like a time frame for when a child begins their evaluation to make the most of their time, like be expedient about getting the child into the services they need? I mean, not like, okay, we started it in 6th grade, it's 8th grade, and we still haven't figured out where we're going to put him, and then he's gone. I mean, is there a limit?
Yeah. Yes. So we have that point where we sat at the meeting and determined what assessments were necessary in order to complete the evaluation. When a parent signs consent for an evaluation, we have 60 school days to complete that. 60 school days to complete the evaluation, to hold the meeting for eligibility, and to put an IEP in place if the student is found eligible.
I'm wondering throughout this process, sort of where the built-in accountability comes in. Like, we evaluate the student, we set an individualized educational plan, and then how does that get monitored going forward, as well as how is there sort of overarching continuity between like the goals we set early on and then kind of to Patty's point, like at the end of their time at 59, do we have an accountability built in to see like, have we achieved the goals midway through? Have we achieved the goals at the end?
Yes. So if a student is found eligible for special education services and that student has an IEP, we hold an IEP meeting every year. We do an annual review. So in between that every year, we have to at minimum report progress on goals at the same time where every other kid receives a report card. So if you are a parent of a student with an IEP, you get a report card and you get a report of goal progress. You also know from the IEP, it is defined how those goals will be monitored. So you'll get goal progress that shares what was agreed to in the IEP in terms of how those goals would be monitored. At the end of the year, we sit down and we have another meeting. We have that annual review and we talk about the progress on the goals. We talk about maybe what the next goals are. We talk about whether those goals need to be continued or have been achieved. Every 3 years, we go back and we do the whole evaluation process again. So that's where we get the other standardized pieces. So we have sort of the progress monitoring in between, along with the annual reviews that happen every year. And then every 3 years, we go back and we do the whole evaluation.
Yes, so that's for students specifically, but how do we assess our program at District 59 as a whole? How do we make sure we're delivering with high fidelity to all IEP students? How do we ensure that our IEP goals are reasonable and that we're reaching them at a reasonable rate? Is there an assessment system for ourselves?
There is not an assessment system. What we have is that we have created some assessment measures that look at things like all of our students who have goals in math calculation, for example. And we have provided them this particular curriculum resource with fidelity. We've tracked the progress of that cohort of students. So we looked at we looked back at their iReady. So if you're talking about more programmatic evaluation, we have to really look at those available, widely used assessments. Some of our academics are monitored using a system called FAST. And FAST is a progress monitor that is norm referenced, but not all students use FAST. Our behavioral goals, they come out in a different way. And so there isn't an underlying, all students are assessed on some of these goals. We do also track dismissals. So once students have achieved their goals, have been reevaluated, and are determined to no longer require services, which means that they no longer meet criteria and or there is no longer an impact and or there is no longer the need for specially designed instruction, then we can track the students who have been dismissed, meaning that now they are achieving at a level where their needs can be addressed in general education. So there is not a single measure of programmatic quality. It is really, because we cover so many different domains, it really varies from student to student.
And those evaluations that we do, for example, for students that English isn't their first language, that evaluation is done in their home speaking language?
Maybe. Mm-hmm. So for our students who speak Spanish, mm-hmm. there are some standardized assessments as well as some more what we call dynamic assessment that we might use with those students. We do also use translators sometimes for students who speak other languages. Mm-hmm. Some of our assessments are nonverbal assessments, but when we are evaluating a student who is an English learner, what we are trying to tease out is, do we have a difference or a disability? Sure. And so it is a much more dynamic process than it might be for a student who is solely an English speaker. So those pieces can look very different. Some of them are in the native language. And then sometimes what we end up having to do is say, we did these assessments, here's how the student performed in English, here's how they performed with clarification and translation in their native language. And then we kind of try to go, okay, where are they now? There are no really great processes to do that. So the state and our field kind of recommends this more dynamic way to assess students.
And what grades are we usually, are we doing the evaluations primarily in those like the early grades, the early elementary grades, or are we seeing more of an increase as the student progresses through elementary school?
It really varies by disability category. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes our students who come into the Early Learning Center may come in through early intervention. So they may already be identified with developmental delays. They may already be identified with physical or orthopedic impairments or other health impairments. And so some of them come in eligible at age 3. So we have a large number of students who are identified while they're still at the Early Learning Center. Some of the other disability categories, the characteristics associated with them don't necessarily manifest that early. So when you're 3 or 4 or 5, you can't really tell if a student has a specific learning disability, for example, because they haven't had the opportunity to benefit from instruction. Something like emotional disability. Typically, the range of behavior in 3, 4, and 5-year-olds is massive. And so until we get to a range of behavior where we can say, yes, that falls outside typical, and it's a pattern of behavior over time, we really can't look at some of those things. So sometimes it varies by disability category, but we do have a large percentage of students who are identified pre-K even.
And even with the disability categories, do we see, like when we analyze year over year over year, do the number of students in those categories, is it pretty stable? Is it consistent? Or do we see increases in hearing impairments, for example, over time, or just so different types of trends?
The big trend over the last several years has been an increase in students with autism, and that has been nationally. From our district's perspective, some of the hearing impaired, vision impaired, those are fairly stable because those are pretty low incidence disabilities. We've had some speech language has been our largest for at least the last 4 or 5 years that I've looked back. And then SLD is usually the second one. So there is some variability, but autism is the one that we've seen the greatest increase.
What's SLD again?
Specific learning disability, sorry.
And you had mentioned in the future using better application of data to perhaps improve our ability to assess earlier. And can you give some hints as to how that would work or what we're looking at there?
So I'm not, I don't know if I said to assess earlier. So as part of our assessments to establish baseline for students, to make sure that we are intervening the correct way when we write those IEPs. So when we look at the data that students have, and ours is really like if you're thinking about a research design, every kid is a single subject research design, right? Rather than kind of a group design when you guys listen to the math presentation. So looking at those individual data for kids means that we can target goals and then the type of curriculum and strategies that we use in a more database manner to really drill down and meet individual needs. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the database decision-making on an individual child basis.
Did I misunderstand you, or did you say in your very beginning that it's our responsibility to look for the disabled people, even if they are not in our schools?
Yes, so it is our job to seek that out. So what we do is we have a meeting every year where we invite all of the private and parochial schools to participate, and we tell them about our process. We tell them how to contact us should they have any concerns. We also invite parents of children who are being homeschooled. And we evaluate students every year who attend private schools in our district. So, yeah.
And then,
This least restrictive environment, one thing that was identified in the equity audit was, we're looking at shifting from more of the self-contained students in the self-contained program to more into the general education classroom. How's that going? I know it's something we've discussed, and is that currently consistently being evaluated?
So in terms of how it's going,
Yes.
we have some, you saw me mention we have some positions this year, inclusion facilitators, who are really working with our teachers, general education and special education, to create inclusion plans for kids, which basically say, okay, what are if we look at this student and his or her needs and this classroom, what are the barriers in this classroom that might be preventing the student from accessing, and what are the skills that the student doesn't have that would help him or her better interact? And so then we're trying to target those readiness skills at the same time while we say, things like it would be great to have a visual schedule in this classroom, or it would be great to have a cool down corner, or whatever those kinds of things are. We have in the last year or so seen more students be included in more regular education classes. Again, it's here and there. Kids are not in total moving from a program all the way to no special ed. And that's not our intention, right? Our intention is always to make sure that we are providing the students everything they need, but not too much, so that we stymie their opportunities for independence and interaction. So we've seen some movement. You can see it even on our school report card of the last 2 years, and we hope to see more.
And as we work on least restrictive environment, how do we support classroom teachers do we give them aides sometimes? Are there building specific people who can help out? How does that work?
So sometimes it's about aides. Sometimes it's about these inclusion plans that we talk about. And I have observed several of those interactions between our inclusion facilitators and our teachers. And it is about setting up some structures and systems for students in the regular education class. We're really looking at a universal design model, so that we say, hey, this is something that would be really helpful to this student and also all the other students in your classroom. Next year, we're hoping to move for professional learning with all staff in the district. So we're addressing it in a variety of ways. Lots of times it's on a per student basis, because individual students have individual needs.
Right, but obviously if we're looking at least restrictive environment, that requires more support personnel spread out throughout the district, right?
Or building the capacity
systems, yes.
of our existing personnel.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Dr. DeGray.
All right, thank you.
As we follow up from our special education presentation, we're going to move on to our Nscl budget, and Dr. Hackett and I forgot your name, I'm sorry.
Julie Gillick. Oh. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here this evening. You are definitely experiencing a heavy dose of special education this evening. And we believe, having listened to Elizabeth's presentation and your questions, that we will add to that and really talk about NSSEO as a partner to that. Just looking at the first one, I'm hoping I get this right here. Yep. Just to give you a review, I know we've seen a number of you before, but just to provide some context for our budget conversation, this is our why we exist as an organization. We really do serve, as you see in your packets this evening, 8 member districts, including District 59, and we really provide partnership opportunities to really help support students in our programs, students with more significant needs, with the mantra to return the students to the home district as they have built capacity and generalization of skills. So really that is our mission statement. Right below that, we really focus on the future for our students. We want all of our students to be actively engaged citizens, and that happens best through partnerships. Oh, I hope I did it. I have to hit it the wrong way. I really did it. We did have a year of re-engage and learning plan. And then obviously, now Julie's moving really fast for me. To the right slide. Keep going. Thank you. This year in particular, we focused on a flashlight, and Joe, as our District 59 board member, actually started our first board meeting in minor in the dark. We had a power outage, and Joe and many other, our other 7 dedicated board members sat for the next 2 hours in the dark, just as we navigated the important board work that we had. But ironically, our theme for this year was really around a flashlight, around looking at NSSEO as a flashlight, kind of guiding, shedding some light for the future of our students. So that piece, and really our re-engage in learning plans. All of us, I know Terry and I were on weekly or bi-weekly calls for a long time on really just talking about all things related to navigating the pandemic in a special education cooperative, looking at how to develop a re-engage in learning plan and navigate all of the individual needs was very, very complex. And as Elizabeth mentioned, individual plans. We were doing that over and over and over again with the layers of mitigation for individual students' needs. As we go on, really looking at our continuous improvement plan, much like you've heard the 59 update, we do a continuous improvement plan or an annual plan every year, really guiding the work that we do. Every board meeting has a presentation aligned to one of the goals that we have. And it's really our roadmap, the way we look at that. We have dashboard indicators to show that we're on track for our goals. So much like Elizabeth shared, we don't have 3 measures that are going to work. We have a variety of those. Those are in your packet as well. But we really also make sure that we get input from our staff, from our board, from our parent advisory groups and beyond. So I'm just going to go quick.
What year NSSEO was formed?
I do, Mardell. It was back in the early 60s. It's really been around for like 53 years. It started before, you just had a history lesson on IDEA. It started before IDEA, which was put into law in the 70s. It started before that. And a group of parents actually went down to Springfield as pioneers advocating to have students with more significant needs in public school systems, because at that time,
I don't know if NSSEO was involved at all, but in the 80s, when
Yeah.
I first got to Grove, they had one room in the far
Yep.
hall that was the severe disabled.
Yes, correct. They were.
NSSEO
Yes.
associated with that or not?
Yes, we
Because the teacher was just fantastic.
Yeah.
I used to love to go in and just watch her.
I would imagine so, Mardell. Back then, we had some of our classrooms in some of the districts, but we've had Kirk and Minor and Timber Ridge as day programs, as separate buildings for many years. They've just evolved in the scope of what they focus on. But great question. As we look at some of our goals, we're focusing on student outcomes. We certainly highlight our student successes. The quotes on the bottom of each one of our slides are really from our staff. We really did a lot on culture and positivity this year. So these are a lot of the quotes. These are students that presented at their district board meeting. These are a number of students that are blind and visually impaired, really showing how to do math skills to really all of us. It was a great learning experience. Obviously, every district is focusing on social emotional learning. That certainly has been even more significant through the pandemic, but certainly extremely important for our students. In many cases, it's one of the reasons that students come to an NSSEO program, because they really are struggling in the level of intensity of need under SEL. So that piece is extremely important to us in terms of how we're focusing on that throughout the years. And we have really intensified that through a number of things. Julie's going to talk about some of our grants, but this has been a very significant area of focus. Our third goal is collaborative and person-centered learning environments. So you can see a few of our pictures on graduations. Last year, I guess the silver lining of last couple of years is we did everything outdoors that we possibly could. So we did a lot of our graduations outdoors and really just celebrated student success, transitions to high school, growth as individuals, and certainly the families, so that we're behind all of that. Transition is our next one. That really is kind of where the pinnacle is for us, is where we want our students to be able to contribute to society. So the more we can help them on their life journey and developing those skills that are critical, are essential. So you can see a lot of proud families here. In your folder is a flyer on our market, our first student-led micro business market this Saturday, and one of the coasters that our students design. You can customize your own coasters, and students will be selling them. And you can go online and order on a little Padlet if you want. But that's very much a focus for us, for our students as they continue to age through the process. And the last one, again, this is graduations again. We did learn a lot of things the hard way over the last couple of years. And some of those things, we really got a very close glimpse into the lives of our families, to their homes, literally through our Zoom cameras, and how we can best support our students. And so we have taken the lessons that we have learned and applied those to the work that we're doing. And certainly last but not least, we are here tonight as an example of collaborative partnerships. It's critical that we are partners with districts, that we listen to your needs, that we adjust the ways that you need supports for your students through our partnerships with you. So we believe we are partners and collaborators. We listen to our families, and they are very honest with us, as well as our districts and our businesses and legislators and other stakeholders as well. So you can see a number of those pictures. The next picture is really just a depiction of our theme for this year, our flashlight, and you can just see how all of the pieces of our goals fit together. And just like a flashlight, every part of a flashlight has an important purpose, or the light doesn't shine, or it doesn't serve the purpose. So that piece is really important to us as we go along. We do a shining star, much like you celebrate your student success every board meeting, and 59 is a very frequent shining star for our district. And so here you can see one of the young men, Justin. Really, I know Joe says this all the time. It's a favorite part for all of us to see student success and to celebrate that. We also branched out into podcasts this year. So I did the first one on RY, and we really have used that as ways to show our coaching, as ways to help new staff, just a number of different themes, things on autism, things on a number of different things, ways that our coaches can help communicate through a variety of things. So that's just one example of kind of our partnerships. And last, I put in the flyer, I think Mardell asks me every year, we really have branched out into calling it a bright spot. So every week we have a visitor come to NSSEO. I take them to wherever they want to go. So if you want to go see Minor, we go to Minor. If you want to see Timber Ridge, you can see the Mount Prospect Village trustees came to see the new gym at Timber Ridge. We've had students or visitors go to an adaptive PE lesson, or maybe an OTPT session, or learning how to do Braille. So whatever that might be, we're kind of customizing that visit based on the legislator or the district person that might want to get a little bit better sense of what we do. So that piece has been very powerful to us. I'm going to hand it over to Julie to talk a little bit contextually about the budget.
Might not be as exciting as the other part, but our NSSEO budget development process is really a collaborative process between NSSEO and all of our member districts who make up NSSEO. It starts early. We start in December. It's always our goal to get our budget done in time for our districts to do their budget planning. We have a finance advisory committee that meets together, and it's made up of a variety of stakeholders. It includes our superintendent, our administration, our member district administrative special education leaders, our member district business managers, our board members, individuals from our association, a large group of people that come together to put our budget together. The first step at our very first meeting, which is at the end of December, is to do a snapshot of what we're projecting for enrollment for the upcoming school year, which is really hard to do because we're looking in December at the following fall, but it gives us a starting point to build our budget. And the budget you have is really a fluid document because what you pay to NSSEO is really based on true enrollment in the upcoming school year. But we like to give you an estimate of what we anticipate that would look like. So once we get our anticipated student enrollment, we build our staffing plan. And that's what we do for our very first budget meeting. We look at the needs of the students, the needs of the programs, our member district needs, and we build our staffing plan around that. We also at that time collect information on what we call our purchase services. And those are the services that our districts purchase from NSSEO. OT, PT, speech, also coaching services, instructional coaching, behavior coaching, autism coaching, a variety of types of coaching services. So we collect that information from our member districts. For example, you guys were big purchases of OT and PT. That is changing this year through a collaborative process that's becoming transitioned over to the district. So that's the first step. We collect all that information and we build our program budgets and we start building the cost of those budgets, of those program costs. So that's our next meeting, which usually is the beginning of March. And our second Finance Advisory Committee, we bring forward our anticipated tuition costs, what those costs for those programs would be, what the cost for our purchase services would be. And we also look at all the things that are impacting our budget at that time, which we'll talk a little bit about too. And then our third and final meeting, at our second meeting, we also look at our facility plan, planning for our facility. We have a 5-year facility plan where we look at what our facility needs are looking forward. This year, we actually had our 10-year life safety survey, so we have a lot of really updated information. And we plan for that so that we can make sure we have the funds we need to address those needs moving forward. Then at our third meeting, we come back and that's our proposed budget that we vote to transmit to our member districts. And then that goes out to our districts, which you would then have for 2 months. So you have the opportunity to look through it, ask questions, get more information, and then it comes back to our board meeting in June for a directed vote. Our budget's a little bit different than a district budget. We're really program-based budgeting. Our costs are based on the cost of that program, and that's billed to our districts as tuition or as a cost for that purchase service. So it's a little bit different for the district. What we try to do is to bring in enough revenue to support the cost of the program. So we don't have a lot of reserves. We do have a few reserves. We have our worker comp, unemployment, we have a retirement reserves, again, planning for those anticipated costs that we might have in the future, but we don't have a lot of reserves. The majority of our revenue comes from tuition. Just about 90% of our budget is built on tuition. We have a little bit of evidence-based funding, not a lot. We have a little bit of Medicaid, a little bit of IDEA dollars, and then we have a lot of money that comes in through grants and other things too, which I'll talk a little bit about. I'm going to move into our budget now that you've had a chance to look at. Overall, our budget shows really stable enrollment over the years. From last year to this year, we're looking at just about exact same number of students for the upcoming school year. Again, that's a real fluid number based on needs that come up during the year. The increase this year of the overall budget is about 5.76%. That is due to a variety of things. Salary and benefits make up 80% of our budget, just about as it does for a district. This year we're in negotiations, so we're looking at also trying to remain competitive with our member districts and needs to fill positions. Everybody is struggling right now to fill positions, so we're looking at especially our teacher aides and getting those salaries up as part of our negotiations so we can have qualified aides in our classrooms. Another thing that's kind of been a hit on our budget this year is insurance increases. I think all of the districts have seen that too with our health insurance increases. Also, our worker comp and our cybersecurity insurance have all gone up too. And then, of course, needed technology and facility improvements too. So when we look specifically at District 59's usage of our programs, again, it's very stable. Your participation in NSSEO programs remains pretty consistent, and that's typical for a school district. You have about 23 students at Timber Ridge, 12 at Minor, 2 in our deaf and hard of hearing elementary program, and 1 at the middle school program. You continue to purchase services for the upcoming year in assistive technology, vision itinerant students, services for students who are blind or visually impaired, and some adaptive PE services. Overall, the District 59 budget is going down by a little over $1 million, but that's attributed mostly to the shift in those OTPTs coming back to your district. One thing we are really proud of, and I can switch the slide, is we really try hard to supplement our budget with grants and other types of funding that we've actively pursued. This year we got a grant from the Illinois Service Resource Center from the state for the Illinois Service Resource Center, which NSSEO now is proud to administer. It's a statewide program, so it serves the entire state of Illinois for students who are deaf, hard of hearing, blind, or visually impaired, who also have social emotional needs. It's a really unique, small population of students, but it's a really important need. So we have staff that work throughout the state providing supports to families and to school districts for those students. We also just recently got a Stop School Violence grant, which will help to build our program and social emotional supports for our students. Again, a really needed area for students with significant disabilities. So that's a unique one. We also recently got a University of Illinois grant to help us focus on our transition programming through some supports from the university. We also just recently got one from the American Dermatology Association for a shade structure to put over our beautiful minor school playground, which we're really excited about. We got a Christopher Reed grant to buy an accessible wheelchair van. We always apply for the state school maintenance grant to help support our ongoing program facility needs. And then we get small grants too. We got one from the Rotary Clubs for our minor greenhouse, for our sensory room at Timber Ridge, for some exercise equipment at Kirk School. And just today, we found out that we are tentatively approved for the Illinois Special Education Leadership Academy, thank you, which provides ongoing professional development, professional learning for special education administrators throughout the state of Illinois. So we're really excited about that.
May I ask you a question on that? Do you have a specific grant writer at NSSEO?
We do.
You do?
We do. We've had Beth Ann for, is this our second year now?
Yeah,
She's
third
a
year.
parent of 2 former twin boys who went through our programs. Bright woman, stay-at-home mom, but she was involved with our fundraising and everything. And I kept saying, we need you, we need
She's
you.
a
And
gifted
one day
writer.
she
is.
said, you know, and she felt like she's so active with her kids, but she felt she needed to get back a little bit into the work world. So she's part-time. And we research grants and we work together, and she works in the office or at home, and she helps us write for these grants. And she's worth every penny that we pay her. She's probably underpaid, but don't tell her that. But so we do, and we look at everything from big to small to whatever. That playground was built through a state grant, $500,000, and it didn't cost our districts a penny. So we're really proud of that. So like I said, big, but we'll take that $2,000 to build our sensory room at Timber Ridge 2 from the Rotary. We've got some wonderful partners.
And then just in closing, obviously our partnerships are critical to the growth of our co-op, but the future of our co-op. So we continue to forge ahead on working through all of our stakeholders. We also want to thank everyone here, this board, Joe, who does double duty on our board as well as on negotiations, and and Elizabeth, who works with us, as well as serving as incoming president of IWSC, our state special education organization that I too am a board member on, proud to be. But we do recognize how important it is to work collaboratively, to stay student focused, and to have a time to provide context for our budgets, but also for the work that we're doing. So thank you.
The only thing I'd like to say is NSSEO is a really good deal for our district because as a member of the co-op, we get essentially what is a discount when we send students over there in the tuition versus districts who send students there who are not part of the co-op. And so it is a really good investment for us as a district. And the support that they give to our families of students with disabilities, parents, and our siblings, students who are in our district, the supports that they give them are critical for the stability of everybody, right?
Oh.
And so they do a really good job.
Thank you.
I also just like to say that the parents are so extremely important to
Oh,
these children.
absolutely.
There's just no question. We have the classroom I spoke about before that had the very severely disabled people, had a set of triplets who had cerebral palsy.
Yeah, I know.
And they were, you remember them?
Yeah.
Well, they
well,
happened to
there's-
end up as my neighbors of mine. I didn't
Oh,
know
my
them at the
gosh.
time. They're now
Mhm.
29 years old,
Wow.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
And the two boys, just this past year, got their first real employment.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
really, one
Fantastic.
works as a checker at the Jewel, and
Oh.
one works at Ace Hardware.
That's wonderful.
And
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that.
and
We
unfortunately
right,
for them, they had another
Yeah.
child later in life, and
Yeah.
he was also
Oh,
disabled.
my
He had
gosh.
autism. So this
Yeah.
is a family with 4 disabled
Yeah.
children, and they just function beautifully.
Yeah,
They just
that's
get along
wonderful.
fine.
I think the networking, like you say, Mardell, is so important. We have a dance every year, the alumni dance at Kirk, and I think the oldest alumni student was 53 this year. So they keep coming back every year because it's so much a part of kind of the extended family for the families as well. And he brought his mother as his date, who's 85. So,
There are success stories, so that's good.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hack.
Item 7.02, determination of safety hazards for school-related student transportation. Come on up, Ron. Looks like you'll be up for a while. The next bunch of items are basically annual things that we have to do every year. They come up every year.
Thank you, Dr. Bresnahan, Board of Education. So as Mr. Reed just commented, the next couple are their bookkeeper items. They're just kind of to do every year. So serious safety hazards related to student transportation is something that we need to pass every year in case there are serious hazards to pupils due to different traffic or dangerous spots. Nothing changed from the previous year according to ISB.
Go ahead, you can go to the next one.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
I'm in. I'm all in. Setting student meal fees. That's another one we have to do. 2 years ago was the last time the district had to change, increase its meal fees. And the only reason why it didn't last year was because of COVID and the pandemic, and the state gave an exception. This year, we're looking to increase it 10 cents so we can stay in compliance with the state of Illinois. 7.04 is a food service contract renewal. As of right now, for that one, we're looking, they can charge the CPI, Organic Life can charge the district a CPI of 7%, which it's going to happen to every district. Also, they have to request an additional fixed minimum wage fee because Cook County's minimum wage ordinance is increasing, so it's going to be an additional $41,500.
Quick question. The Organic Life food service provider, how long, so we would approve it then just for one more year? Would they just be providing it for one more year?
Correct.
The, how are they doing? How happy is the district with the food service?
From my personal experience, and I've been doing this since, I mean, I think I'm doing this for so long, 2010. This has been the best provider, but it's also easy when you have Stacy Manuel there, who is in our department, and she ensures that there's a lot of communication between them, the principals. I know that Frost, for example, had a wonderful, that there's detail that they put together for the food superhero week yesterday on Friday. I saw some wonderful pictures and, saw that happening. So there's really good collaboration. It's just difficult with the district to be able to capitalize on a relationship when we don't have kitchens.
So this contract's being extended. How long can we keep doing that? Because I know we're states being allowing us to extend this contract because of the current pandemic.
My gut is that this will be the last year, because since they didn't approve of the free meals like we have in the years past, now they can actually see in all districts across the state how many meals they're going to sell. So then you actually will have the data to have an accurate bid in the next year. So I think that this is going to be it. But it's going to be crazy because every single district will probably be required to go out to bid, and what's 850. So it's a lot of pushing stuff down the road right now.
Other questions? Right, next topic.
This one's the school board treasurer. Hopefully the board would like to appoint me.
You are, Terry.
We'll see about that, Ren.
Sorry, Mr. Mencia. The school treasurer bond is another example of something we have to do, which is 7.06. And that's to protect the district, just because if something were to happen with the treasurer, there is a formula for how much you're supposed to be bonded for, and it would be $60,729,766, and this is standard. 7.07, again, this is something that the practice has been in the district, and it's a good practice. We're taking money from interest earned the debt service fund to the ed fund so that it gets transferred out, so that next year it'll going into that fund balance for the ed fund. But again, that $20,935 will be transferred, and that's that one. 7.08 is the transfer earned in working cash to operations and maintenance. Now, we do know how much we need for operations and maintenance and the 60 funds just to keep our buildings up. So again, this is just moving interest over from working cash. It's $31,684. Juliet Low retention work. Currently, when it rains, the parking lot is a pool. So this would actually fix that situation. Mr. Tiarina worked with Eleni Burhanu on this, and the solution was a $75,000 solution that is required for us. We can use it out of the 60 fund. We do have more than enough funds, and it would do wonders for the Juliet Low community. 7.10, Claremont Administration building asphalt work. This is in our 10-year facilities plan.
Before we go on, Ron, can we go back to put the Juliet Low parking lot? So
Sure.
The $75,000 for this work. A meeting ago, maybe 2 meetings ago, we talked about the 10-year plan. Is this part of that, or is this something that was unexpected and now it's an additional 75 on top of
This was unexpected. So several rainfalls in the last 2 years that I've been here. I've gotten pictures from Albert, and the water stands, yay high, and you have staff members, kids walking across there. There's no drainage to it. It's not good. It's not good for the for the parking lot either, having water seeping through like that. So this is one of those examples where we're fortunate as a district to have built up our 60 fund, that this was something that we really wanted to go after.
Okay.
That's a good question. Thank you.
I know that it has to be done because I've heard all kinds of complaints about it, but wasn't that parking lot just done prior to this? Was it a mistake on the part of what was done before, or what?
No, this hasn't been done, at least with when, under me and Albert.
It was done in the last 3-4 years.
Well, I wasn't here. I couldn't really think about what was happening at that time, but the drainage was the issue. I've heard different stories as to if it was planned that way or not. It's just a problem.
Time, I know.
Yeah, so that's why we've done our best with the 60 fund and moving a lot of our revenues there so that we can put on projects and make things right for the kids.
For the folks at home, when we say 60 fund, what do we mean?
So the 60 fund is the capital projects fund. One of the practices that we've done in the 2 years I've been here is we take some of the excess revenues and we put them into, it's like a savings account for like your home, right? So if you have a roof that's leaking, if you have an issue with your basement, whatever, this money can be taken from that to fix different problems that have occurred. So that's what the basis is of this. It's been great for the district because it has helped us with stuff like retention problems and whatnot.
Thank you, Ron.
Well, thank you. 7.10. This is in the plan. It says Claremont administration building asphalt work. Once the ground settles, you'll have either cracks or you'll have different little potholes. This is just making sure that now that the ground is settled, we can ensure that everything is taken care of in terms of making it a flat surface, and that we do take care of seal coat it as well. Otherwise, if we don't, water can get in that. And that was a $95,000 submission from a bid.
Where at Claremont is this?
The side of I don't know. Albert had it. It's like the whole side of the building. He said it's just rough.
Not up in front where we just had the work done.
No, there's nothing going on where we've already done work.
It's a different place.
Yeah.
No, I actually think it is the entranceway because we didn't resurface that. It is the entrance.
Is it the entranceway?
It is the entrance drive.
You like finance and facilities, so I'm going to trust you.
Yeah, because I think that was not done yet, and that needed to be done because of the cracks and stuff, and some of the damage from the construction we've had done.
So then, yeah, that's again the ground settling probably, and they have to take care of it. Okay. 7-Eleven, that is also seal coating and crack filling at various facilities. There are 8 of them. Again, this is something that we try to complete every year, every so often when we see it. This bid was actually, the lowest bidder was thrown out because there was a bid bond that was not given to the district. So a bid bond would be if a company doesn't do their portion, what they're saying they can do, and the district reserves the right as being part holder of that bond to pull it so that it protects us in case anything were to happen. The lowest did not give us one, so we went to the second lowest, and that's a $66,500 amount.
I think the key thing to notice with this is that we're going to a 2-year cycle of seal coating the parking lots. So we were on a 3-year cycle. We're going to a 2-year cycle, correct?
That is correct. 7.12 is to adopt the fiscal year budget, put it on display, and set the date for the public hearing. So the public hearing, we're looking to be set for 6 p.m. on Monday, August 1st here at the Admin Center. We're going to make sure that the budget is there for public inspection, and we'll have it there, a notice published at least 30 days prior to make sure that we are in compliance. And then we'll listen to suggestions and changes, and then we can present the September 12th meeting with the coming budget. Unfortunately, the district has to do the budget after the fiscal year starts, but it is what it is. District-wide copiers lease solution is 7.13. And to be honest with you, doing the analysis of this, we were trying to work with Konica Minolta just to extend and see what else we need, because with there's a lot that's going on where we want to make sure there's minimal disruption with the district at this time. I know that we do have a lot of HVAC work. We do have a lot of, the laptop replacement, but we feel that it would work out with Konica Minolta to see what they can, offer us before just saying we're going out to bid. So I wanted to tell the board here that this is what's going on right now.
And they would only provide the actual machines, or are they solving the toner issue that we also have or had?
That's both. Yeah, they do the machines. The toner issue, that was actually a topic of discussion recently with some colleagues. It seems like it is getting better. So that, that it was unfortunate about the plant explosion.
And they service the machines as well?
Correct.
It's a contractor.
Yeah.
So this is extending the contract. We're not going out to bid. We're potentially looking to extend the contract.
As long as they're not crazy, sure.
And how many times can we extend before we have to go for bid?
With technology and the copiers, it's a different ballgame. You can do it pretty often. I don't think there's even a minimum. I'd have to look at that, but I don't think there's it's nonstop. Now, to me, when the time comes, we do go out to bid at some point because you do want to keep them on their toes and be competitive.
How long do we keep these machines around? I mean, do they give us something updated or do we wait till these die?
So they're giving us two prices at this time. I'm glad you asked that. One with some of the copiers that we've had troubles with, and then some without that, and keeping the ones we have at this time. We've had the copiers for 3 years, and from what I gather, it appears that they may not have been placed strategically in certain places, and that's why you'll have jamming sometimes of copiers because maybe they're underutilized or they're overutilized. But they're tricky. I've actually had to deal with this quite a few times. Business managers hate copiers. That's why we got to go paperless one day. But at this time, we're getting two prices to see what we can compare it with. And then 7.14, I really wanted to really give to you really quickly. So Albert has been working with Allied, and from my understanding, there were emergency lights that were needed in our schools, such as in the bathrooms. So if the power were to be cut, there wouldn't be any lights. That's being worked on right now. However, he and his team were thinking that they were going to replace the exit signs by themselves. It's about 600 exit signs. And with all the work that it would be, and his men doing this and women over the next couple years is what he was expecting. He asked them for an amendment just to see what they'd price it out at. And that's where you see it as $111,800. It would not come out of the 60 fund if we were to do this. This is what we have as a 90 fund, which is called the Health Life Safety. So this project was identified by the state of Illinois, and Mardell, I know you love the state, is something that we needed to take care of. And this would solve that. It would come out, like I said, of a different pot that does not touch our operation funds. It doesn't touch anything having to do with curriculum. The other piece of it is a $51,600 expense on a condensing unit that, from what I gather, during their walkthrough, I don't know if it was missed or not, but there was one more unit that needed to be taken care of.
Kind of add something to that. This condensing unit, it keeps Mr. Wheatley's staff at Friendship Junior High cool. It's basically for your office space, correct? Is it? Yeah. Yeah.
No, not just his. Okay, it's not just his office space. It's because then we'd say no. Yeah.
It's the entire office up there. That was missed. But I think the key thing is related to the $111,000 for the exit lighting. It's our staff could do it. But because we're looking at LED lighting and we have an LED lighting project going through all our district this summer, and we'll have basically electricians in our buildings, through all our buildings, do all the LED lighting, that as long as they're in there, they can do it probably much quicker than our guys can do it.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. We have a certain amount of time to complete the health, life, safety checklist, right? So is the concern if we tried to do it in-house, it's going to take too long, or is it just going to eat up too much time for other projects?
That's, from what I gather, it's more of the eating up too much time with the other projects. He was pretty like hopeful that they can be done regardless. But while the Allied is there, Albert thought, well, if they're there already messing with the wiring, they can just do that now and drop it down. And I forget, it was $147 a sign, or I forgot what the calculation was.
It was $200, but some were not lit up, it wouldn't light up.
Yeah.
So they actually have to run some light wiring to it and stuff like that, which would,
Mhm.
that kind of incurs some cost. So some are just replacing existing lights, from my understanding, and some are actually
Correct.
creating lights. Like at Clarence, I think Bird was one of the big ones. We don't have exit signs in the classroom by the exit doors, which needs to be fixed.
Code's always interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my questions on this that maybe we could just do in the board weekly or something to give us updates on it is, I guess I'm wondering if if Albert feels there's greater efficiencies in doing it this way, because I could easily see that sort of a rough tally of the cost of doing it in-house would be equal to or more than that 111. So just kind of understanding, does he see it as more efficient in cost? And then, I don't know, is there any desire to like split the project up? I don't know if there's any way to lower this cost and like we do the less complicated one. So, I mean, I will leave this to the facilities committee to decide, but I guess those are just a couple of my questions for feedback.
Yeah, there's Albert had it broken down by like what was going to be done. I think just include that link into the Friday update. Then answer Courtney's questions, I think would be the way to go.
Thank you. But in my last comment, and then we're good to go. A lot of these projects and a lot of these pieces that we've been doing without the fact that we've even had to take out any sort of bonds is phenomenal. The district is in very strong shape. The way we've been putting money aside, the way the discussions have gone. So that's one thing I just hope the board realizes, is that we are all in such a great spot. And it's a very nice feeling considering this economy. So.
Albert, not so much. Okay. Item 8.0, reorganization. Every year in May, we reorganize the board. The first item on the agenda is item 8.01, which is termination of length of office of the president, vice president, secretary. State law requires, if you read the background, state law basically allows the office of 2 years. The District 59 has always looked at it every year. And this is basically the resolution to say that we're going to basically continue on with our process of looking at the board officer positions every year.
Since it is an election year where how many of our seats are up? 3 seats. Mm-hmm. So it seems to make sense that we would, I mean, just for that reason alone, do 1 year.
What would the timing be? So then if we vote 1 year now in May, then the May meeting next year, we would vote for new officers, and that
Yes.
May meeting, would that be the meeting where we would seat
new board members?
If there are any? Yeah.
Board members that were elected in April, yes. Okay. Well, can I get a motion?
I'll do the motion. Be it resolved that on the 9th day of May, 2022, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education establishes the length of office for the president, vice president, and secretary to be for a period of 1 year. The next election of officers will be held in 2023.
And I second that.
Comments? Roll call?
Estino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli. Aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
And Schumacher.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Item 8.02, establishing a stipend for the board secretary. There's a board policy allows that the secretary, due to additional responsibilities, could receive a stipend for his or her additional responsibilities. It has been the board's preference that does not happen. And this is a discussion if we want to continue not offering that stipend or if we want to offer a stipend.
I think Madame Secretary says no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
Thank you for your service, Patty. I'll make the motion. Be it resolved that on the 9th day of May, 2022, the Community Consolidated School District 59 establishes an annual stipend of $0 to be paid to the elected board secretary as compensation for the performance of duties of this office.
I'll second.
Questions, comments? Roll call?
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
And Espino.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Oh, great, I just lost my agenda. Yeah.
Should I make a nomination?
Before we open it for a nomination, is there anyone who wants to be vice president or president?
Well, I think let's take one position office right at a time. So the first one would be the president. There's a background and questions. Anybody?
I think I'm gonna go ahead and nominate Randall Reed for president.
You don't need a
Seconds are not
second.
needed, but I second that.
No, you don't need a second. They do not require a second.
Okay, so just the okay, who's doing the motion?
Are they
You
anybody?
can self-nominate as well.
Yes, you may self-nominate. That is correct.
Self-nominate yourself.
And the way the election works, if there's two people voting, we will need to go until we have a majority vote for a position. So is there anybody else would like to be nominated? Okay. Do I need to accept the nomination? What? I figured you could, couldn't I? All right, do we have a motion then?
I do.
We don't need to take a roll, we do not need to take a roll call if there is only one nomination, correct? Or do we need to take a roll call?
Right, no, it's only if there's more than one.
Okay.
And so you are elected president.
Thank you for your service, Randy.
And we don't have to do any of that. Okay. Cool.
All right, nomination and election of vice president. As you understand, the vice president will serve in the absence of the president and assist in manners of the president.
I believe that now includes a pie to the face, Courtney, just.
I'm open to that.
Yeah.
So,
Who are you nominating?
I-
Go for it, Press.
I'm gonna nominate Courtney, by the way.
I agree.
Is anyone else interested in the
Yes,
office of
anybody
vice
else?
president?
Anything?
No?
No, it's yours.
I nominate Courtney.
Thank you. I will accept.
All right,
Courtney. So
I'll make the
you-
motion.
Okay.
I just did.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll make the second.
Okay.
Okay, wait.
Yep, and then,
Now I
well,
can.
no, it's just the motion and second, and then we just,
And Randy.
yes.
All right, there we go. Done deal.
All in favor?
Yep.
Say aye.
Mhm.
Aye.
They don't clap for you though.
Congratulations, Courtney.
Thanks for
Thanks for all your hard work, you guys.
Secretary. Anybody will make a nomination for secretary?
Nominate Patty.
Nominate Patty.
I'll take it. You know, I've only signed away a few of my kids, so I got a couple left.
Okay. Is there anyone else would like?
Nope.
All right, can we have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion to nominate Patty as our secretary.
And I will second it. Courtney?
All right.
Thank you ever so. It's an honor and a privilege.
Yes.
Okay, we are good to go on that now.
Congratulations.
Yes, Patty.
Thank you, you're beautiful.
All right. All right, now it's taken care of. We are on to the setting of dates and times, location for regular meetings of the Board of Education for the 2022-2023 school year, which begins on July 1st. Do we have the link of the calendar? So that'll be the calendar. As you noticed, the one thing that Ron mentioned, August 1st is the public hearing for the bond or for our budget. Any
Question, the committee of the whole meetings, are those, once we vote, can those be moved? I know sometimes maybe we decide we don't need one, or how does that work?
Yeah, meetings can always be moved.
We just need enough time to notify the public of the change and stuff like that. But if we come across something we need to address earlier on, we can move it, or if we don't have a topic discussion, we can, eliminate
Or
the
if
board.
it interferes with the holiday.
Hopefully we took care of that. Like, we're not gonna have like a Valentine's Day one.
No, but we do have a meeting on October 10th, which is Columbus Day, since we will be in session for school.
Okay, I got a motion.
I will make the motion.
Do-
Be
do-
it resolved that on the 9th,
Go ahead. Okay.
okay. Be it resolved that on the 9th day of May 2022, the District 59 Board of Education hereby sets the date, time, and place for its regular meetings in accordance with the listing of meeting dates and times attached to this resolution.
A second.
A second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
And Lang.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Bless you. Item 8.07, appointment of ISAB Governing Board Representative. I believe you did this last year, Mardell, correct?
Pardon me?
You were the ISAB Governing Board Representative, correct?
Not IASB, no, I am not. I was last year.
Right.
But I don't want to do it again. So we
Right.
choose a new person.
Right. But can you explain some of the things that you've done? So other board members know what.
Well, the big thing is to go to the convention and be the delegate who goes to the delegate convention and votes for our district as to what we're doing. So you must be available to go to the convention and to don't devote at least a half of your day on that particular day to go to the delegate convention, which I did last year.
So I guess, Mardell, I would ask you a question about that because I was not the IASB delegate my first year on the board, and I did go to the convention and serve that role. So I guess that can be separated. Is that right?
I don't think you have to be, that the IASB delegate has to be the one who goes to the convention.
You just
I
need
think
a
it could be
delegate.
Different people.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think one of the things that Barnell doesn't say, she also looks at all the proposals and discusses them with us of the different items that are going to be discussed and voted on.
I don't think there's much for the IASB delegate to do except for going to the convention and voting in place of our district. I don't believe there's anything else to do. There's an Ed Red, and I've been the Ed Red, and there's a North Cook, and then there's the IASB at the convention itself.
Okay.
I think it's a good opportunity, especially for some of our newer board members to go and network, meet individuals.
And I think it's interesting to go to the convention. I've gone to every single state convention since I've been on the board, and every single, almost every one of the international or national one conventions. And I think they've all been very, very good, and I've learned an awful lot by going to them.
So would anybody like to do that? No. I'll nominate myself to do that.
Leaders lead, Randy.
Well, I'm planning to be at the conference anyway, so.
As president, you may have to do that.
Yeah.
Where are we now?
Can we get a motion?
Keep going.
I'll do it. Be it resolved that on the 9th day of May 2022, Randy Reed is appointed as the School District 59 IASB Governing Board Representative. We need an alternative.
Put me.
Courtney shall serve as the alternate for the IASB Governing Board.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
Petrielli, aye. Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
And Mencia?
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Item 9.00, 9.0, consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
This is normally Mardell.
I move to accept the consent agenda 9.01 through 9.06 as presented to us.
I will second.
Do we have any questions or comments? I know, Joe, you had a question about the electrical costs.
Oh, on the disbursements, there was
Yeah.
Schneider Electric.
I was kind of interested when I saw,
listed.
when I,
It was
when you
just a big
said that, I
number
saw
that
it, I'm
stood
like, oh,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was part of an ongoing project or.
So that's part of the software update that we're doing for the key cards that are in each building. And the software hasn't been updated in 15 to 20 years. So Schneider is doing that work.
Okay.
Ready? Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Mencia?
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. And the motion passes.
All right. Action item 10.01, appointment and contract approval, Ripley School Principal.
Yeah, so I am very excited to introduce someone who actually probably needs no introduction, as she has served as our current assistant principal at Brentwood. But we have Miss Katie Sullivan with us this evening, who we would like to recommend tonight for the next principal at Ripley Elementary. I want to thank the Ripley team who served on the interview team with us. We also received some feedback from parents about the search, as well as our administrative team for participating in that process. And we are very excited to have Katie join the Ripley team and to continue with us in District 59. Well, let's vote first.
We'll vote, then we'll clap. I can make the motion. Be it resolved that on the 9th of May, 2022, CCSD 59 Board of Education hereby appoints Katie Sullivan as principal effective July 1st, 2022. Be it further resolved that on the 9th day of May, CCSD 59 Board of Education hereby approves the contract for Katie Sullivan for the position of principal effective July 1st, 2022.
We still need roll call.
Yep.
How
A second
many
too?
years have you been at Ripley?
I'll second.
Okay, now roll call. She'll get 3 rounds of applause.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Mencia?
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed?
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Now
Okay. I'll say. Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you so much. I am so incredibly honored to be able to serve the Ripley community as the next principal. I am so excited for next year. I'm dreaming big, and I really just want to take my first steps, really just to get to know the community, develop positive and trusting relationships with the students, the family, and the staff. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am. So thank you for this opportunity.
How long have you been at Ripley?
I've been at Brentwood for the past 4 years. This is my 4th
So
year
you're
as
going
assistant
from
principal.
Brentwood to Ripley.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, you've had a good principal. at
I've had the most
Devonshire
amazing
training you.
mentor.
Yes.
And there's part of me that's very sad. Every time I talk about, being not Kim's partner, I get a little sad just because she has taught me so much, and I feel so ready and so confident, largely because of her. So
Awesome. Well, good luck.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Item 10.02, ratification of collective bargaining agreement for certified staff. I'll make that motion. Be resolved on the 9th day of May 2020, the Community College School District Board of Education ratify a 3-year contract with its certified employees as presented above. The term of the agreement is July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. The average annual compensation increase for the 3-year agreement is 4.19%.
I will second.
Before we take a roll call, comments, suggestions, I want to say thank you to the DA and the administrative staff for getting this done. I don't want to say the word quickly, but I'll say the word efficiently. We'll say the word efficiently. There was a couple rough spots. I needed to go on vacation, and then a lot of stuff got done.
Yeah.
So I took that personally. So anytime we started hitting a roadblock, I would conveniently leave the room for a while so things get done. But no, I want to thank everyone for their hard work. I think part of it has to do with we know, that we want to show the support for the teachers, what they've done, and what the work they're going to be doing. So I think this is a fair contract that they worked hard on.
Mhm.
So with that, anybody else have any question or comments?
Just a comment, just for the purposes of transparency and full disclosure. I was going back and forth a lot with whether or not I would abstain from this vote because my wife is a teacher in the district. However, I am going to vote. I did not participate directly in any of the negotiations, so I feel very comfortable voting my capacity as a board member. But I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
And I just want to say thank you to Randy and Patty for serving on the committee. Thank you to the DEA, Dr. Bresnahan, SLT who participated. And I also just want to take a minute to acknowledge all of our certified staff because it has been an incredibly difficult last few years. And I feel like I see every day how many teachers are considering different careers or leaving the profession. And I just want all of our certified staff to know how grateful we are for you and that we value you. And this is, hopefully a reflection of that. But I just think even more than compensation, we want to keep building a district where we make this sustainable for you in the long term. So thank you for your service.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to add anything, Ann?
Well, I want to thank the Board of Education. You guys have been a great support system for us. I keep saying this, it's a volunteer position. You guys are good paid and you guys put in a lot of work, so thank you so much. And to Dr. Bresnahan and her team, there's such a supportive administrative group. Over the past several years, you see fighting amongst administrators and teachers, and that's not what happens here in District 59. So thank you all for all your hard work and that we can partner together and work professionally, respectfully to do what's best for the kids in District 59.
Mm-hmm.
Let's roll call first.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to do the roll call.
Here we go. Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli. Aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Woo-hoo.
All right, now for the less, a little bit more mundane stuff. Approval renewal for refuse recycling service final proposal. Do we have a motion?
I'm happy to do the motion. Whereas Republic Services has provided the required service while demonstrating a high level of performance, whereas Republic Services has proposed a new 6.16% increase that does not exceed CPI and has provided the required rationale. Now therefore be it resolved on the 9th day of May, 2022, the Community Consolidated School District 59 approves the renewal for refuse recycling services with Republic at the address listed in Mount Prospect for the 22-23 school year for a monthly rate of $4,603.48 or annual cost of $55,241.76.
I will second.
Any questions, comments? I think Ron worked hard to get this lower than CPI, especially if you've seen the gas prices lately.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their costs is labor and fuel. Roll call, please.
Espino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli. Aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
And Schumacher.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Okay. Item 10.04, approval of contracted rates for taxicab services for transporting students. I can make that motion. All right. Whereas 3 proposals received for taxicab services dated for the year 2022-23 school year, whereas the district has stipulated not all services will be awarded to one company. Now therefore it resolved that on May 9th, 2022, the Board of Education of Community College School District 59 approves the following rates for taxi services as stated below.
Second.
So basically, this kind of covers students that would be like homeless or those that cannot get to school, and we have to provide transportation for them, and where a bus would not provide that, would not be able to provide those services. Roll call.
Lang,
Aye.
Mencia,
Aye.
Petrelli, aye. Reed,
Aye.
Sager,
Aye.
Schumacher,
Aye.
and Espino.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Item 10.05, approval of the illustrative math for the junior high. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion. Whereas the Board of Education discussed junior high math resources on the 11th day of April 2022, be it resolved that on the 9th day of May 2022, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education purchased the following mathematics resources for grades 6 through 8 for the 2022-2023 and 2023-2024 school year, which is the remainder of the 3-year math implementation plan.
I'll second it.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
Lang,
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrelli, aye. Reed,
Aye.
Sager,
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
And Espino.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Item 10.06, approval of district wireless system upgrade. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Could I ask a question before we have a motion?
Let's get a second. Do a second?
Second.
Ron, how
I'll
often
second
do
it,
we
I'll second it.
how often do we update our wireless systems?
The last time we updated our system was 8 years ago.
How many years ago?
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Yes.
So this is the first time in the last 8 years.
Yes, that's
That
correct.
sounds like a very, very reasonable deal.
Did we figure out the licensing on it?
So the licensing was not approved by USAC, but that will go through next year because it was miscategorized. So we will have, the vendor was able to supply a stopgap for this next year. So we will be covered, and then we will go through that process the following year. But we will have the question is, we have licensing in place for additional features that would allow us to have more management, more control, more security. That went through our E-rate consultant who provides us with the application process. Unfortunately, an error was made along that process, and the licensing piece itself did not get approved under the way it was coded. However, the vendor will provide us with the needed license for this next year. Then it will go through that process again next year. So we will be covered. We'll have it all in place. And we have had conversations with the consultant about that. So we don't expect it to happen again.
So we'll be seeing an action item on this next year then, related to the licensing. Okay.
And is it LAN or is it LAN?
You can say LAN.
Okay.
Mhm.
Whereas 3 quotes were received for wireless LAN, whereas DSN Group, 2300 North Barrington Road, Suite 400, Hoffman Estates, Illinois, 60169, submitted a proposal fully meeting the district specifications. Now therefore be it resolved on the 9th day of May 2022, Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 59 awards the wireless LAN contract to DSN Group for a cost of $260,400 with an estimated E-rate discount of 80%, resulting in a net cost to the district of $52,080.
Any questions or comments?
Quick question. E-rate, that is a state program, right? We apply for the E-rate fees, but it's not guaranteed, right? Like we could apply and get a discount of 50% or a discount, or
No.
is the 80 pretty solid?
It's a federal program, and it's determined by your free and reduced lunch. So that's how your discount percent is calculated.
Okay.
So our established discount for our district for anything that is applicable for E-rate is 80%.
Okay.
Ready?
Roll call, please.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
And Lang.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Item 10.07, approval of District 59 Education Foundation, $798.47, donation to 2 CCSD 59 schools.
I'll make the motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Be it resolved that on the 9th day of May 2022, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the donation from the District 59 Education Foundation to Friendship and Ripley totaling $798.49. This donation will be used to purchase support materials for the Education for Life Skills program and for a Lego project. Be it further resolved that the superintendent shall communicate to the District 59 Education Foundation in writing expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education, and that this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting. Very cool.
Questions, comments? Roll call.
Petrielli, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
And Mencia.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Item 10.08, approval of portable classrooms for Brentwood and Frost Elementary Schools. Before we even have a second or a motion or a second, this was something that we've been trying to get from out of the Facilities Committee for the last month or so, as we were trying to get numbers down. As most cases, we would try to have a discussion item about something and vote on it at the next board meeting. And that was one thing that the administration staff had suggested we have a discussion item at this board meeting. And then in 2 weeks, when we have our committee of the whole meeting, that we would do actually the action item on it. I was worried because if we're talking about installing 2 mobile homes with classrooms, with plumbing and electrical, that I wanted to kind of move this up to as quickly as possible for approval, because we do have to run plumbing and electrical, and we want to make sure these are done for when the school year starts in August. As I've come to realize, there are some questions and concerns from board members. So if we can't come to a decision, we can maybe have some questions for the board, the administration have to come back to us, and we can still vote on it. We could maybe not vote on this month or this meeting and vote on it in 2 weeks at the committee of the whole. So with that, should we make a motion in a second, and then we have a discussion?
We have another, I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Be it resolved that on the 9th day of May 2022, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education hereby approves the purchase of 2 portable units, one at Brentwood Elementary School and one at Frost Elementary School. These units will be used for additional classroom space at each of the schools. The total cost, approximately $659,300 for both units at the 2 schools for 1 school year.
Do a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Oh, Daisy, did you want a second?
Yes, let's go for it. We discussed this as Randy said at the finance meeting, and I don't know how you feel about it, Ann, but I remember when we had the portable classrooms before, people were actually asking to teach in the portable classrooms. They were really quite popular. So I don't really think there's going to be a problem with it. I think it's probably a very smart move, because if we have to go and build on a classroom here and a classroom there, it's 2 different schools now than it was a year ago. So I think it's a wise move.
So Robert, I just wondered if the administration, because I sort of had to educate myself a bit about this over the weekend, and probably just because I wasn't fully updating myself on the finance and facilities information and their meetings. But Dr. Bresnahan, would you share, or the appropriate person, like a little bit about the rationale for needing the units at Brentwood, and then the separate rationale for needing the units at Frost?
Absolutely. So I think first and foremost, starting with Brentwood, it's probably a school that could have used them this year. We have our principal and assistant principal here who could attest to that. They actually don't even have a teacher's lounge this year. That's been used as a classroom space. So as we saw in our facility capacity study during our equity audit, we saw that they're at 85% capacity, which really translates to what feels like over 100%. So looking forward to next year and taking a class that is actually over 30 students right now and wanting to separate those sections out, we would have an additional section. So it makes sense that we want to, while we discuss our long-term plans, this would be a 1-year kind of solution to alleviate some of that space issue over at Brentwood. So that was definitely a high top priority. What resulted secondly in looking again at our next year plan was over at Frost, which we have our principal over at Frost as well. So while originally we were looking at Frost as a place that had some room to add additional sections, and we'll actually talk about it in our strategic plan updates related to our dual language programming, we are shifting some classrooms, students to combine and consolidate classes to eliminate our multi-grade classrooms over at Devonshire and moving those over to Frost. But what also is adding to this, it is not solely based on that program move. We also have a 4th grade section and a 5th grade section that are at 30 right now, currently at Frost. So the plan is to separate those out so that we would have 2 sections of 15 at both. So that now creates 2 more classroom spaces, which is really now contributing to the need for adding these mobile units. Again, with the commitment that we're looking long-term across all 15 schools in order to not be in this situation year after year after year. But again, in order to take a step forward to alleviate the multi-grade classrooms and to alleviate some of the classroom space issues at those 2 buildings, this was the best solution that was brought forward, and one, I think, reasonable solution, as well as looking that there is a return on this investment ultimately if we wanted to sell these portables if we didn't have to use them later on. So overall, for a 1-year cost, we felt that it was definitely manageable and would address 2 issues at 2 different schools.
Questions?
I wouldn't exactly call it reasonable, but I think it's definitely a lot cheaper than having to go out and spend a couple $1 million to put classrooms on.
So,
Correct.
So right now, each unit would have 2 classrooms and a washroom. And the 2 classrooms then, right now, we are projecting would have 15 kids each.
So this, what would actually take place in the portable units, I believe we are slated to look at art and music. So that way we have like equitable opportunities for students to flow in and out of those spaces. And so that's what I think the initial plans are for both Frost. I'm getting nods from our principals at Frost and Brentwood to have art and music, which we know we are expanding next year. And those would be a great location for those 2 programs to take place.
One of the thoughts that I had was, over the past 2 years, we've talked about ventilation a lot. And I want to know if that's been discussed or analyzed as far as ventilation in the unit, in the actual mobile units.
I'll defer to Ron on that question.
That's something I personally don't know much of. I'd have to get with Albert about that, and then he's not here today. So
I will say, Robert, though, because we really discussed, again, Brentwood with its space issues, we were concerned about ventilation this year. So we actually added some air filtration units specifically over at Brentwood because of some larger class sizes. So those are things that we could repurpose out into our mobile units if we were concerned about ventilation. But I agree, I think that was something that Albert could look into and reassure us of.
I'd just like to say that the only thing that I can remember from the old days when we had the portable classrooms was that they didn't like to have to go outside to go from the portable classroom to the school. So we built a shelter that went over the top. And we talked about doing that again so that the children teachers will not have to go out in bad weather in the actual elements. And I think that's the main problem that what we had before, and we're going to correct that.
So I know it's implied, but these are ADA compliant. We'll have ramps to them, all that sort of stuff.
I believe so, yes.
that's part of the reason why it was so difficult to find them. There are a lot that were made in the past that were not compliant, just like you've mentioned. So we had to make sure we did it right. That's where we're at.
And can you advise a little bit on the resale value of these? Because I think where I do struggle is that it's a very short-term solution, and it's obviously preferable to building out, but it's still like a short-term 1-year solution. So like, is there a solid resale market for these?
Albert's been working with a vendor who's stating that they can be sold at 80% of the value that we've bought for them because of the extreme need for them. And when it comes to construction or projects, the planning, I mean, it's time out. Like sometimes districts just need to get them. So what we're doing is we're doing a lease to own potentially, if we can do that, because otherwise we don't want to be stuck with, so that's why, yeah, there's a lot of good potential with it. Albert's extremely confident, and I've had multiple discussions with him.
And I guess to be clear then, like the total cost when we factor in all the services of putting in plumbing, it's $659, but each unit is $220. So we'd be looking at recouping 80% potentially of like $440. Okay. I
Correct.
think that's just helpful. And I guess just personally, I totally appreciate Randy's perspective of trying to give us more time. I think personally, I feel it would be really helpful to have the opportunity to reflect on this further, see if we have further questions, and then vote in 2 weeks. But I'm open to others' thoughts on this.
The two comments, and I want to jump off that too. But the cost of running water, $55,000. The cost for electricity, $164. Are we hiring contractors to do that, or is the provider of the units doing that?
We are hiring contractors for that.
Okay.
So the people who bring in the actual units don't do that. Albert has already done some preliminary look to see like where they would have to, to contact the, connect the water or the electric. So that's where he got hard numbers.
And then if I could just make a comment on Courtney's comment and Randy's comment earlier. I am always going to defer to the principals of the school as far as what they need, to the leadership here in the district as far as what they need. But at the same time, we also have to answer to the taxpayers in the community. So I always want to make sure that we have the information that we need to answer questions if we are asked as far as something we voted on. So I understand it's been discussed in the committees, but a lot of us didn't have any of the information here. So if we were to have voted on it today, I would not be able to explain what we just bought, so I just want to make sure that we have the tools that we need to make sure that you guys have the tools that you guys need. So we're all succeeding here in our roles.
Sandra? Just one more thing. Last year, if you recall, we needed classroom at Claremont and at Brentwood. We were talking about spending a couple $1 million to put those classrooms, permanent two classrooms
I think
on.
that was almost 3 years ago.
Now we have 2 portable classrooms, and they're at 2 different schools, Devonshire and Frost. So our population seems to move around and become more of a problem here and then someplace else. So I think for the purpose of a year, or maybe even if we have to go 2 years with them, depending upon what happens a year from now, this is a much more reasonable situation than building permanent rooms on schools at almost double the cost.
And one thing that I'd like to bring up is these are not an ideal solution because we lose blacktop space. And as a parent at schools, I know in the winter, if kids don't have snow pants, they can't go, they have to stay on the blacktop. And so we'll be looking at 2 schools which are kind of landlocked, and this is taking up some valuable real estate. So it's not an ideal solution, but for a short-term solution, maybe it's reasonable.
Well, hopefully it'll only be for 1 year.
And if you don't mind me jumping in here, and I know at least for Brentwood and then for Frost, Albert already does have one quote for adding blacktop. So that's already been in discussion.
Yeah, because I know we brought that up at some point during the facilities meeting, saying, hey, do we have a little patch of land that we could, put the classroom on the current blacktop because it's closest to the services for electrical and plumbing, and then build a little patch somewhere else so the students would still have that space.
And Randy, remind me of the name, but we did speak to one of the teachers who would be benefiting from this classroom at the play. I can't remember her name, but I mean, very excited.
Currently that teacher is working out of one of the teachers' lounges.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's what she explained to us.
Actually, their teacher's lounge / workspace got broken up with a cement cinder block wall about 2 or 3 years ago that Albert had installed, so she could actually have some privacy when trying to teach a class instead of
teachers working in the lounge area, and there'd be a big open wall there.
Yeah. So it goes back to what I said. It's we don't know unless we hear about it or we're actually in the buildings as far as what is needed or what the conditions are. But it was very clear speaking to her that this is going to benefit her life and make her life a lot better, make the students' life a lot better. And that's ultimately what our goal here is. But like I said, it's just more of just making sure that we have the information that we need in order to vote properly and that we're using taxpayer funds properly.
I think one cost we're not including in this whole thing is if we do remove these units, there's some costs with deconnecting the electricity and the plumbing and stuff like that. And I believe that was about 15,000 per unit. So we would have an extra $15,000 cost no matter what we do next year for removing these units. Put it in part of your consideration.
And my concern would be, where do we store them?
Well, that's that.
If we disconnect them, is there a place where the district could put them?
Well, I think that's a question that if we decide not to vote on, I think we'd want a response on, because I've asked that question, because right now we have we're basically a lease to own.
Mhm.
We're paying $440 for the 2 units, $220 a piece, and if we want to own them, it's $1.
Yeah.
But if we have to store them for 1 or 2 years and we can't resell them, what's the storage cost? Where do we even store these things? I mean, these things are going to be huge.
But one of the things that I feel real good on is that Albert's already talking to the vendors and making sure that they do find districts that are going to be doing this with projects for next year.
Because I think my concern is there are no used ones out there, correct? We tried to find used ones, we weren't successful.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, this is, I hope, a purchase, because it would be a really bad use of money if we're going to pay this much money and then let it go for $1. So yeah, I think those are just things we need to look at as far as what we're going to do at the end of this, or reuse it, and there's options.
I think the question then I'll ask is, are there any other questions or comments? Does everyone feel, I'll take a kind of straw poll, do people feel comfortable voting on this tonight, or do you want to pull this agenda item and move it to action item and move it to 2 weeks from now?
I would prefer moving it to 2 weeks from now, because that is a short period. And if we can get answers on the ventilation piece and also just the confirmation that the ADA piece, the bathrooms are ADA compliant, the whole works, ramps, all that good stuff, and I think we'll be in good shape. But that's just me.
Sorry, to clarify, didn't you say they were ADA compliant?
Yes, they are. Yes.
But actually, that's a great question. So, I mean, these are mobile units. Do they come with like the ramp and everything, or are we gonna have to build the ramp ourselves?
No, we already have the ramps and we don't have them, but the ramps would be in place with these. They would bring everything ADA compliant.
So as part of the $440,000 for 2 units, it comes with the ramps and everything.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I guess Robert and I have stated our position. Anyone else feel the same as us, or would you like to vote tonight?
I'm good either way.
I'm good either way. I'm fine tonight, whatever.
I'm sort of leaning towards a 2-week delay is not a huge deal, and maybe
I don't think
just
it's a big deal.
just to rebuild that consistency of doing a discussion, then a vote. If we have a couple of questions, let's do that.
So I guess it looks like we will pull this agenda item then and add it to.
So
We can table it for the 23rd.
Yeah, we've discussed it, so we just need to vote on it next time, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's already,
But
it's already moved and everything.
Yeah, the only thing we lose is we're losing the 2 weeks of, additional time to get the units and stuff like that.
But we're not at a price lock. We're not all of a sudden looking at a $700,000. We don't do that.
Yeah, okay. But there's permits and stuff we need to do or stuff.
We always have the wheels in motion. We're ready to
Okay.
go at this moment's notice.
Daisy?
Okay.
You good with it?
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
And then everybody will be happy.
Yeah. If you do have questions, make sure you just let Terry, Dr. Bresnahan, and Ron know additional questions. Okay. Item 11.0, superintendent reports, the strategic plan oral reports.
All right, so we're just going to circle around with SLT to give some updates regarding our progress towards our strategic plan goals. I will start by just sharing We had last Monday night our town hall meeting to give a state of the district address. Thank you to Robert, who was there live. Thank you to our audience members who were there watching online. And while we had a small in-person attendance and limited viewing, I think it's a reflection of a couple of the comments that we did get from the QR feedback form that we put out was, okay, we're hearing this information repeatedly now. Now, when are we going to get to what's happening? So I think the building of awareness phase has kind of reached its head, and now we're really looking at when we come back on the 23rd to really start digging into what are the actual things that we need to make decisions about. And so we put out a video message, and then as well as ended the town hall meeting with talking about really what are those things that are coming that we are going to be asking for the board to make decisions on. And as referenced tonight, in terms of our facility usage, that is going to be a big part of it. Looking at short-term solutions such as mobile units is one aspect. Long-term really involves us looking at our boundaries. It involves us looking at where our programs are housed. It looks at our current facility usage and ensuring that we are maximizing the use of our facilities and our resources across all of our schools. And then as required now annually is really looking at the equity of our enrollment across student demographics across all of our schools. So all of those things in combination really is through that equity work that we are currently embarking on, but it's now going to get to some of those logistics and some of those pieces where now equity sounds really good out here in theory, but now it's actually how does it impact me and my family and future choices for where they will be educationally in District 59. So our hope is on the 23rd is to come with some of those specific guiding questions that will facilitate a discussion for the board to learn more about what specifically are we going to be looking at in terms of some of these components, boundaries and enrollment and facility usage, and then leaving us through the summer to really bring back data and answers to questions that we may have so that ultimately we're building a recommendation for a long-term plan to be voted on by the board by the fall of next school year. So right now, what I'm asking a little bit of is we're living in somewhat of a state of limbo where we're trying to take steps forward, but it doesn't feel like the long-term solution. So the mobile units are a good example of that, making some shifts for some of our classes to try to continue our programs and eliminate those multi-age classrooms. So we're taking steps forward, but we're still living in a state of some unknown of what that long-term plan looks like. So there's going to be some discomfort and some unknowns that exist. And I'm hoping that we can all hang in a little bit longer and continue to extend some grace and patience as we further explore and make sure that whatever that long-term solution is that we recommend really is the right one and not just another Band-Aid on top of a much larger problem. So that is my hope as we look at our strategic plan work and really continuing to involve our committees and our board and our parent groups so that we can have robust and rich conversations and fully develop that plan. Any questions for me before I pass it on?
I do have a question. So I get the sense, and I think this is a problem with like any audience for communication, right? It's how much, response and attention are we getting at any given moment? And it strikes me that the group we're speaking to who are paying attention have said, okay, I'm starting to hear repetition, right? But I guess my question is, what about the other whatever percent that may not be paying attention and may suddenly, we're going into phase 2, but they're like, what? I never heard about phase 1. And I guess I'm just wondering what your thinking is as to, are there any ways to address that group who so far hasn't paid attention and we're about to move to stage 2?
Well, I think what I have gathered from assessing this and having led through multiple changes previously is that until we specifically start talking about things that matter to individuals, there will not be the urgency to pay attention. So there's going to be some individual accountability in terms of this, but if we keep speaking in generalities around equity and boundaries, and we just are looking at the whole district, it's not personalizing it to create that sense of, oh, wait, they're talking to me. They're talking about me and about my child. So that's what I'm hoping the 23rd will start to spark some of those. Okay, we are looking at, for like when I say Juliet Low is at 45% facility, you parents who are Juliet Low parents, your ears are going to perk up and want to listen, right? When I talk about Brentwood being over capacity and now we're looking at mobile units, I'm now going to capture my Brentwood audience in a different way than I have when I speak about generalities. So while we're looking at phase 2, I really think that it's almost like that extension, an accelerated version of phase 1 to start getting people who are like, okay, this was good, this was good. Oh wait, now you're talking to me. And now I'm engaged. And I think that's something that we've had a lot of conversations about at SLT and around our communication strategy. A lot of this involves at the building level. So we don't have the audience here at the board level that is going to engage the same way as our PTOs are engaging, or at the back, at the socials that are happening at our schools. That's where or the school plays when you start talking to individual staff members, right? So I think we're looking at how do we create this unified message to empower our building level leaders so that they are engaging in this same conversation and soliciting that feedback and input as well, so that we can, again, have a more robust, individualized idea around where we're going. I think the other really important piece that we're going to have to discuss as a board is there are decisions where you need community input in order to make the decision. But then there are decisions that you are going to be asked to make based on data and not opinion. And then it's going to be, how do we communicate those decisions out to our stakeholders? So there's two real different categories that the board is going to have to face around your decision making, because sometimes we want to solicit public favor for a decision that is the right decision to make, regardless of whether we have a majority in favor of it. And then there's other decisions where, no, we really want to see, okay, yes, do we like this, or no, we don't, because we have options. And that is where we're going to dig into it a little bit deeper, started on the 23rd, and have some of those guiding questions to start really pinpointing what is it that we need community feedback on in order to make a decision, and what is it that we need to inform the community about the data for a decision that we already know is the right one to make. Okay. So again, I mean, we are living this on a day-to-day, everyday basis to really make sure that we are moving forward in the right way. But it's going to take probably, some grand levels of trust and a little bit of patience, as well as a really robust communication strategy to make sure that we know the barriers that are going to come as we make these decisions. Not that we can avoid every barrier, but we can at least anticipate them. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our teams to give their updates on their areas of the strategic plan. I'll start with Mr. Ludloff.
Thank you. Just really quick, under the aligned assessment system portion of goal number 1, student growth and achievement, 2 main items I'll focus on tonight. Decision Ed, our new dashboard. Since the board last approved last week, we had a program review meeting with key members of district office staff. Today we had a data extract meeting, and on Wednesday we have a server configuration meeting. So the process is moving forward. I think I've learned from their process, they have a very specific project management process and timeline that we'll work towards. Again, we've talked about a 3.5 to 5 month rollout process, but we're off and on our way. And I think really have engaged a lot of our district staff to make sure we understand the importance, and then have those key people to bring that data over to them and go through that process. So we're moving that process forward, and we'll keep the board informed throughout. The other piece I'd like to share, we're about at the close of our spring benchmarking. Really, we're in the last week this week, and really our focus this week is on the assessment of Spanish reading. Other assessments have been completed for reading and math. Our data is tracking pretty positively, both from winter to the spring. I think where I've been most impressed or feeling great is when I look at the fall and compare it to the spring. It shows the efforts of our kids and staff to really just have a really solid year. So our data is tracking in a very positive way. Of course, we need to dig into that data On Friday, we have an elementary synergy team meeting where elementary staff will start to dig into their data, do some analysis, and try to highlight some positives. And we'll also look for some areas where maybe the growth isn't as great as we'd like to see. But those are the two main items for me.
When will we see those results then, Tom?
So we talked today. I mean, we would and could be ready in June. My personal preference would be to wait till the July meeting because Dr. Bresnan will be out of town, unavailable in June, and I think she deserves to be here when we go through those results. So I think we'll focus at the July meeting.
Tom, just a follow-up question on that too, because I think one thing just for that presentation that I'm interested in and as a board member is we said this was a year that we like hoped would be normal. It was not fully normal, right? We're still living like with the ongoing pandemic. But obviously one of our goals we're trying to hold to is we know that students lost, I mean, I'm probably not going to use the appropriate term, but like there was learning loss, right? Like students fell behind.
I think that the common term we like loss of instruction,
Loss
not learning
of
loss, but
instruction.
loss of instruction.
I appreciate that. So we know there was like a certain level of loss of instruction. And I guess I'm interested to know as best we can from the data, holistically, did we make more than a year's progress as to catching up with that loss of instruction? And did we make a full year's progress? And that was actually better than previous years. So we're pleased with that. Like I'm interested in a bit of big picture understanding on that point.
Yeah, I think the two main components we'll look at, one, as we did in the winter, we'll compare to our benchmarking system, iReady. How do we compare to the nation and to Illinois in regards to progress? Every time they've shared data with us, they've showed historical data back to 2018-19, what progress looked like, and then comparing. And there is that separation, that loss of instruction. But then they also have that nice the growth component, the typical growth, which is a year's growth, and then also the stretch growth, so we can report out on those pieces.
So the business office has been a little bit, I was hoping Janet was here actually. Dr. Bresnahan, when she first got on board, one of the big things that she looked at, and it's still been stuck with me, I feel so bad for not delivering on this right away, but a lot of the programmatic costs with the site base like that we're seeing. So Janet and I have been working on that, breaking it down by different subject areas, buildings, by staffing in terms of how much money each staff member may cost. That sort of, I mean, so we're trying to kind of drill things down before bringing anything out to, to anybody to share with her. So that's one of the big things we're working on. Evaluating utility contracts. There was an initial contract that we were going to put on the board about going out to bid for some of their utilities, but we may have found something where we can extend it at lower rates than what we're seeing today. So we're doing some homework on that. So that's just more of a process of making sure our funds are available. And then just continuing on with our 10-year facilities plan and the funding. Just making sure the environment is correct and ready to roll for our kids.
For Strategic Plan Goal 2, the inclusive learning environment, I have 3 updates tonight. They are all really focused on work for next year. We had a great Institute Day on April 18th, where we continued conversations with Dr. Shiraki Holly on culturally and linguistically responsive teaching and learning, specifically academic vocabulary, and partnered that with discussions on systems and structures to support student behavior at our schools. So both of those learning topics will continue into next year at the school level. We have also been working very hard to plan our junior high WIN resources for interventions, for our systems of resources. And now that we have solidified more of our math and literacy materials with the help of our coordinators, we are moving into studying social and emotional learning resources that can be utilized that would be based on the Illinois State Social Emotional Learning Standards, CASEL competencies, and allow us to respond to the needs of students that arise in our student surveys and from our behavioral data. We also have been working with the educational life skills classrooms that are currently housed at Grove to start transitioning them to homes for next year. That is a decision that results from better opportunities for community instruction in the Holmes area, as well as spaces that are more amenable to the student needs at Holmes Junior High. So communication has occurred at this point with staff, with families, and Holmes is excited and planning to welcome the group to their school next year, which brings richness and diversity to their student body.
Can I ask you, just for clarification, the WIN program, we are not writing the curriculum. It is a structured curriculum that is being given to us to use. Is this correct?
That's correct. So for math and for literacy, for example, we are looking at what is being taught in Unit 1 in first quarter of next year, and we are looking to supplement those concepts with materials that we have that teachers are familiar with and can utilize, and we are planning all of that for our staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
How many students are we talking about moving from Grove to Holmes?
Actually, Dr. Degree, you'll give a more accurate answer. How many students are we moving from our educational life skills program?
That's fine. And that's going to basically free up 2 classrooms at Grove too, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
For goal 3 for family and community partnerships, we've been focusing on 2 areas in particular. One is the two-way communication. You're hearing a lot this evening about the importance of our communication plan, especially as we're continuing to engage our equity work. So we've been exploring some different apps that present better opportunities for two-way communication. Nothing that we've settled on yet that we're at a point to present or discuss too much, but we are also looking at some of the tools that we currently have. So School Messenger offers us the ability to text message, and that's still sort of more one way than we would want because it sends it out, but it doesn't allow too much response. Tools like Seesaw, they're coming out with a whole new messaging side of their tool, which will allow for more two-way interaction. So there are some options out there that we want to continue to increase that engagement. The other piece is increased access. So like you see tonight with the cameras that we have for our live stream, I want to thank Justin for his continued patience. I continue to ideate about all the different things and ways that we could live stream and change our setup. And he's been very patient with me and all of the ideas that I've had. Some good, some not very good at all. So I also want to thank the community outreach team, and this is a great example of this partnership. We've been able to live stream our family community, our family education evenings, and that's just one example of being able to utilize this technology to have people be able to join these sessions who may not be able to attend in person. And the fact that we can record them, several of the events that we have, we've been able to break down and then send families who need them a specific portion of that archive, which I think has been a very powerful way to use that technology. So we're continuing to explore. We're pretty, I'd say, early on in our live streaming and archiving journey, and I look forward to the ways that we're going to continue to build on that, make it better. If you watch tonight's meeting, you'll see we started this last meeting, but we're using cameras that allow us to zoom in more to give the audience a better perspective and be more connected with the meeting itself. Our audience members are not as thrilled with this, I think, as they're finding themselves on the video and saying, where's the safe place to sit? Just due warning to anyone here, there is no safe place in the room anymore. You will all be on the camera. But really the point is we want people who can't be here in person to have the best experience possible and to feel connected and feel like they're not at a loss because they can't attend in person. So we're going to continue to develop that and our approach to that.
Yeah. And if I could just make a comment, one of the things that we discussed at the family education night is how important streaming these things are and these events are, because one, it showcases all the great things that we're doing, but there's a lot of parents that have never gone to these events before and they don't know what to expect. And it's good for them to actually see what happens there to kind of break that ice, and now they feel comfortable coming. So it's great. I'm happy to see it.
And can I ask you something? With graduations coming up, we're going back to tickets. Is that true, Terry? Are we going back to tickets for the ceremonies? Okay. So what if you can't get tickets? Are we streaming
And
For
for
the
this
people
year,
at
we're
home?
not planning that because it's outdoors and our ability to connect and to be able to have the internet connection that we would need is a little more challenging at our outdoor venues. So for this year, we aren't able to do that. Also, we have some events that are on the same night. We don't have enough equipment to be able to do the ones that are happening simultaneously. But it is something that I would like to look at for us to be able to do in the future.
I want to kind of follow up with one thing Robert said about the streaming capabilities. I think one thing we also would be remiss to mention is that it's out there that people could review it at a later, view the videos at a later date. So those that have a previous engagement and the time of this, whether it be a family education night or a board meeting, that they can review it at a later date so they can be more involved, which is a really nice feature of this whole process.
And there are times we've used our board update where we've sent a link to the timestamp of the conversation that has happened to direct people directly to that portion of the meeting to allow them again to get that information.
Yeah.
Good evening. For goal 4, high quality staff, the Human Resource Department and the many hiring managers, that's everyone from coordinators to principals, assistant principals, teachers helping out on committees. We've been hiring for the last few months. Although if you look at the consent agenda tonight, it was a longer list, and that's partially due to us having the success of our contract approved tonight. We needed to wait on some of those approved salaries in order to move through with contracts. So rest assured, we have been working on that for a few months, and we're in the final stages with our current openings. As we've shared, we have been working on the elimination of multi-grade. We are adding, as you know, art and PE and music. We are adding positions or filling positions, I should say, to adjust to our new schedules. So exciting and busy times in HR. We've also been celebrating staff. As you know, we just finished Staff Appreciation Week. And if you haven't been there in a while, I highly encourage you to look on Twitter at hashtag D59cares and hashtag D59learns. I start my workday looking at those two hashtags, and the way we're honoring staff and students at our schools, the way our teachers are sharing this, the way our families are, it's tremendous, and it speaks to the culture of our district. We also have a celebration coming up a week from tonight that you may have seen in the board weekly. So next Monday from 5:30 to 7 is our retiree and recognition event, which we haven't been able to hold in person in a long time. And even though May is such a busy month, we do have some staff members that will be coming. So hope you come as well. Should be a nice evening, and we're excited to honor those staff members.
And how many of those thank you cards were sent? I saw it in the weekly update. Wasn't there like 2,000 or some large?
There was a little over 1,500 of
Oh,
those. I think where we last funded, I think that there was, let's see, yeah, I think it was about 1,540. And I do want to say thank you to Justin. That was his idea. So I think it's a great idea. It allowed us, for those of you who don't know, it was a form that we sent out to families and to staff. They could fill out just a quick thank you, and it sent a formatted card of thank you to the recipient. So I think it was very successful.
All right, good evening. Goal 1, curriculum clarity. So a couple weeks ago in the board update, I did give quite a lengthy update on the variety of curriculum work we have going on. I will talk a little bit about that right now. First, our math year 1 implementation goal is coming to an end, and we are now gathering some feedback on our year 2 goals. So we're meeting with the implementation team later this week, and then with ALT coming up, the principal ALT the following week, to really craft out a draft plan of that, really focusing on responsive math instruction. So really getting into the assessment component to drive instruction. As well as our junior high folks, we want to make sure that they have a more differentiated ability to connect across the district, and we're working on that plan as well. In terms of literacy, we've had a broad scale pilot of My Perspectives, and the team met last week, and the team has decided that they do not want to move forward with My Perspectives. My Perspectives, the evidence gathered was not aligning to our beliefs, as well as some of the efficiencies of the platform were not to the level that teachers would like to see. So we have reconvened the Literacy Council members from the junior high. We met with them last week, and we're going to start from scratch, and we're going to look at some more resources. And by the end of this school year, we'll have identified a few, as well as a process to work through to hit the ground running in the fall with another pilot, potentially 2, 3 that we're going to look at. Our goal is to have some presentations to the board by November, December, and have approval for a new curriculum in January so that we can spend the later half of the year preparing for that curriculum. We also, as Ross shared, we have art, music additions. So we have our curriculum team for art teachers for the elementary, curriculum team for music teachers meeting, and our PE teachers K-8 have been meeting, and they're going to be working throughout the summer as well on some of the curricular pieces. They're identifying priority standards and moving into units, and I might be looking at some resources to support that learning, which they previously haven't had in the past. I do want to thank the teachers who have been part of all of this work. We know this has been an atypical year, and they have put in a tremendous amount of time and energy outside of their regular duties, and they have done an amazing job, and they're going to continue to work a little bit this summer as well. So thank you to all those teachers. Looking into next year, we are going to move forward. We're going to be looking at social science standards and start digging in a little bit there, as well as science the later half of the school year. So there's quite a bit of work going around with curriculum in our review process. That being said, we are also projecting out, knowing that we may need to have some renewals, some new resources. So I've been working closely with Ron and with Janet, looking at what might we need in the next years coming so that we're budgeting for that appropriately. So EL, we've also been working incredibly hard in that department as well. I know that Dr. Perdomo's down. He's been hanging in there tonight, so he's here as well if he wants to chime in or answer any questions. You talked a little bit about combining some of those sections. Those are more programmatic things that we've been working on. But part of the dual language leadership team, we've been working on our content allocation, language allocation plans, and are in pretty good shape for next school year. One piece as well is we are, through the surveys, staff, parents, we've identified a Spanish language proficiency assessment that we are working on, a data privacy agreement right now, and hoping to move forward with that for kindergarten students, as well as our students transitioning from elementary to the junior high. So we can gather more accurate data on how they're doing in that proficiency of the Spanish language. We are also looking at an EL curricular resource for our students who are not in our dual programs. Those teachers currently do not have a curriculum resource, and they've been trying out something called Connect, and it's been unanimously very well received by all of our ESL teachers in the elementary school. So lots going on. We will continue to update and move forward with some of these things. And Dr. Perdomo, I don't know if you have any questions or anything regarding any of these, he's here as well tonight.
Yeah, I'd actually like to ask Dr. Perdomo to come up, and I want to just preface these were some questions that I received from the board, and I just wanted to make sure that we were very transparent and open. This is one of the areas that I feel we are living in somewhat a state of limbo around, because if we go back to the first night when Dr. Perdomo had presented our dual language program review, then we went in and we shared the data from our dual language audit. And we really talked about what the vision for dual language is. And what I want to do a better job of is connecting some of the changes that we have anticipated for 22-23 as back to those things, to bridge back to what that vision was that was created. Now, again, we're living in a state where we're not realizing the full vision next year, but we're trying to make those steps forward. So we've done some really careful planning, and I would say probably over the last 4 to 6 months of really looking at our numbers, at our sections, at our class sizes, at our instruction, at our resources, and our curriculum, specifically related to dual language and how that plays out in each one of our buildings, because it's very different depending on which building you are in. So our long-term goal is to get us to a collective vision around dual language. But our short-term goal that's going to create, again, this is where now how does it impact me, right, as a parent and as a family, is now how are we making some of those shifts next year so that we can address some of these very big inequities in class sizes and in programming, specifically around multi-grade. So Dr. Perdomo, do you want to talk a little bit just about some of those shifts that we're looking at for next year?
Can I ask something really quick before we delve into that? I just want one thing clarified. So when, for language arts next year, while you're investigating, what will they be using in the meantime?
We're going to investigate this spring and early into the summer, and they're going to start with pilots from the very beginning of the school year.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Good evening. I was trying to hide over there, but here I am. So for next year, one of the pieces that we were looking at, or a lot of pieces that we were looking at, is as we're committed to the multi-grade elimination, that did create opportunities for us to look at how do we create more equitable opportunities for our classes, and looking at class sizes, and then how do we make sure that our students are well balanced. In a dual language program, we want to make sure that we have a well balanced representation of students in the program. The other piece that we're looking at is how do we continuously look at creating additional opportunities for our EL students to have those opportunities to be integrated with role models of language that are native English speakers. So looking at how that full balance approach of our students. So that gave us that in that portion of it, when we looked at two of our buildings specifically that had that multi-grade, and looking at how can we best support our students, our teachers, our class sizes, decisions were looked at and potentially moving forward with in combining and streamlining our students, but also looking at it strategically to ensure that we're still maintaining the fidelity of a two-way model, which really does have that balanced approach of non-EL students with EL students, and also giving our EL students opportunities to potentially have more integration if possible. So that allowed us to bring 2 sections in one building to 3 sections. We were able to increase because of the amount of students that we had. We have 51 students in one of the class in the section of first grade. So with that section of first grade, we were able to carry it out to 3 sections, and that gave us 17 students per section now. So it's more equitable across the program. It also allowed us within that classes to look at now, instead of having 1 section of 2A, we were actually able to create 2 sections of 2A and 1 section of 1-way. The 2A section, we were able to look at strategically the students that are non-EL, as well as our students that are EL, but have our access scores actually just came in this past Friday. So we were able to successfully exit a great deal of students. So also seeing that those students are now former ELs, no longer qualified for ESL services, will still remain in the program, but now are English proficient. So we're looking at that reclassification of our students and balancing them out as well as then taking a look at how do we balance out our EL population with their access scores so that we have a wide range of students within those classes. So we were able to do that successfully. So as we cohesively looked, it was looking at a lot of different data for a lot of different students and being able to balance out classes to meet the best needs of our students and our teachers. And then as Ms. Savage talked about with the opportunity for looking at a Spanish proficiency assessment, that's only going to enhance these opportunities for us to continue to build on our program so that we can really see our students, the vision of our program. I said, I think the first meeting we talked about is getting our students to our path towards biliteracy and proficiency. So how do we get them to that seal of biliteracy at the end of their career, if that's the option they want to get to? How do we prepare them for that? All students, regardless of the 1-way, 2-way, they should all have the equal opportunity to get to that end level, and we should be giving them that rigor to get to that point.
Question. We've eliminated multi-grade classrooms across the district, right? They're all gone. So next year they'll all be gone, right? And then the example that you're giving right here for combining with the 51 students and now in 3 classes of 17, where is that happening?
So that's happening at Salt Creek specifically.
Do you have a follow-up question? Okay. So I'm just interested in hearing how these changes initiated by the audit, right, to eliminate the multi-age classrooms. You gave the Salt Creek example, but I'm interested across the district in just understanding where the implications of that played out.
Yeah, so that played out at Salt Creek, and then it also played out at Juliet Low. Those are our 2 buildings that did have the multi-grade classrooms for dual language, and Devonshire as well. So Devonshire, we know, was a shift from moving from Devonshire over to Frost. We also know we had the elimination at Brentwood. We did have a 2-3 split class, which had about 32 students in that class, just that class alone. So we did split that for second and third grade so they could each be in their respective grade levels. I think that came out to be about 16 and 17 students respectively in each of those classrooms. And then at Juliet Low, we looked at our K1, which was our multi-grade classroom. It had 5 students in kindergarten and 6 students in first grade that were in that multi-grade. Because of the small numbers that we had there in comparison to our two-way sections, we absorbed those students from kindergarten would go into first grade, and then our first graders would go into second grade so they can be with their class grade level. And then when we looked across, and then at Juliet Low, we also had the number in fourth grade. We're sitting at sections in dual language of 9 students in our dual language class and 9 students in our monolingual class. So when we looked at that, is combining those to create one section so that we have a class size of 18. We looked at is having 9 and 9, fiscally responsible and equitable when other classes are not at that level. So our 5th grade section would go to that one 5th grade now of 18 with that blended model. That class did not start at 9. So, historically, I was told that it started at around 19, 20 students. Maybe a little less. I might be wrong on that number, but it was a little bit around that number. And then it progressively got lower up to the 9. So we're looking at combining those. We did have a meeting with our low families this afternoon. And we did talk about 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. We made no decisions on, we're looking at different options, and we wanted input on what that could look like to create equitable classroom sizes for that as well, because we have some classes at 17 and then a class of 9 as well, depending on the type of program that we have. So looking at that holistically as well, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So it was Brentwood, Devonshire, Salt Creek, Juliet Low, specifically because of the multi-grade elimination.
And even, I was going to say with the low example, obviously I'm a low parent, low dual language parent, but is there going to be a communication after this meeting? Because I couldn't attend this meeting today, and I don't know what was discussed, and I'm sure there's a lot of parents that couldn't attend either. So, how is that going to be communicated out to the rest of the dual language?
So what I would like to just really articulate for the board's behalf as well as the public's is that class sectioning is a function of our principals per board policy, and so typically that is done every single spring, and we look at it holistically to maybe offer up some parameters, but that really is a function of a building principal. And then typically sectioning is not, what child is in which class for the following year is not shared out until probably August. I'm seeing some nods as well, right? That's the typical pathway that happens. I think in this particular case, to reference back what we spoke of before, is that we have some perceived programmatic changes for our parents that started in a dual language program, and now we're looking at sectioning in a different way. And so again, the looking at sectioning and combining and balancing class sizes happens every year in every classroom in every school without board input, without communication out to parents until class sections are determined and sent out. So I think what is important for us is to look at what was the initial vision for dual language and commitments made to our parents? Where are we currently today? And where do we want to go? And I think that is the communication that we want to engage in and what really came out of the meeting tonight over with our Juliet Low parents. So in terms of final decisions around sectioning, we would handle that the same way we would handle our monolingual classrooms or our gen ed classrooms. So I think we're not going to do anything different in terms of that, but what tonight was the opportunity to give some feedback. What we do then need to create is sharing out with all of our dual language parents across the entire district. What is that long-term vision, and what are the steps or changes in those commitments that were made previously? How is that going to look? When we start off with sections of 19 to 24 and we're now down to 9 to 12, commitments aren't going to look the same on either side. So I think that's part of the process that we have to get through in order to make that long-term plan. But open communication with the principal, those parents that were not able to make that parent meeting should absolutely reach out and talk to the building principal. And that's where it should start, just like with any of our schools who have questions around sectioning. I know we had parent that reached out about the frost sections of 30 and what's that going to look like. Please reach out to your building principal. That's where those decisions lie.
So it would be helpful, I think, to have a little more explanation as well. So we have the sectioning issue, which, as I understand it, is the Juliet Low issue, the Salt Creek issue. But then between Devonshire, Brentwood, and Frost, we have dual language students who, for their elementary career, were attending either Devonshire or Brentwood, and now will be attending Frost. And so if you could just share a little bit of what the process has been of communicating with those families, because just being in a position like Robert, where, you know, I have, relatively speaking, minimal impact in this whole concept of like the sectioning may be changing from how it was originally described to us. I'm just imagining being in the shoes of a Brentwood or a Devonshire parent who, you know, imagined my child would start and end their career at this school. So if you could just walk us through like what those communications have been, as well as like what the feedback the district has received from the parents, I think that'd be helpful for me.
Courtney, if I could just start, because I think that's a really important point. If there is a shift in where a child attends school, there is obviously a lot of layers of communication that goes into that. So the shift that took place, and we actually have our 3 principals in the room tonight between Brentwood, Frost, and Devonshire. Those were individual reach outs and communications and parent meetings with every impacted student and family. Choices were given, options were given, this was explained. Staff at all of the buildings were met with, and opportunities for, you know, understanding the why behind the change. So in terms of that, was a very robust communication process. I will liken it to what we did with the ELS program as well. So you heard tonight that there were individual conversations with the teachers, with the staff, with the families about that change taking place, because we would never do that without obviously engaging in that communication.
And I guess I'm just wondering too, like, what was the level of choice that families were, like, did they have an option of, I guess that's the piece I'm not quite clear on. If the program is shifting to a new location, what is the choice they were able to make?
Sure. So we looked at options of continuing on in that dual language program. And again, we're talking about students who are in one-way programs. So it would be the opportunity to move over, which I think out of our kindergarten through 4th grade, what was our, I believe it was
And
all of
I know
the
Randy
students.
is back there, so if I'm
Yeah.
incorrect, Randy, you just yell it out. But I believe there were 4 families that had chosen to not continue with the move for dual language to remain at Devonshire. And I know that at the last I looked at the spreadsheet, I think there were 5 that were still undecided that may have been decided since I looked at that. So of all of our shifts, it would have been 9 families that were 4 that said no thank you, and then 5 that were on the fence. And I know we've had conversations with those families to determine, to just give them their options. It was never our purpose to try to convince them. We just wanted to make sure that they were well informed of what they would receive if they chose to stay at Devonshire, to make sure that they're still going to receive ESL services, so they're still eligible for those services. We don't want them to not receive that, or they could have dual language, continue with those services as well. So when we look at that, we wanted to make sure our families knew that eliminating your service was not what we wanted them to be able to do.
That's excellent. I think what I wasn't clear on is that if you don't continue in the dual language program, you can still receive the services. And I guess that would mean you're just now in a gen ed class, but we layer on services for your language support because you haven't yet, like, as you mentioned with some of our students, like graduated out such that you don't require those services. That's helpful.
Yeah.
And I think what's important too is we have, for example, Forest View, which does not have any dual language. So if you live in the Forest View attendance area and qualify for services, your choice is to attend Forest View and receive ESL, or to move to to be transported to another school for those services. So as you can see, this is why we have a bigger issue that needs a long-term solution, and it's not going to get fixed in 1 year, but the commitment was around the multi-grade. We can at least do that, because that is something that formatting of students is just detrimental to education. And so that was, I think, at least what we wanted to commit to in year one. And then year two, let's really look at what that long term is, because we have pockets of students who are forced to make that choice every year when they register.
And just to add on, Ms. Savage talked about the curriculum for ESL as well. I know the focus is a lot on dual language, but there's a lot of focus on ESL as well because, my whole philosophy is we're a multilingual program where we encompass dual language, ESL, newcomer. And I want our families to know that regardless of the program that you're in, you're going to get a robust, education. We're going to give you all the services that you need. So I want our families to feel empowered that they are equipped with the knowledge of here's what each of our programs can offer you. And regardless of which one you choose, your child is going to be successful. That's our goal. And so, that's why we're always looking at how do we support our dual program? How do we support ESL? How do we help with newcomers at the junior high level? So it's really just ensuring that our families are fully educated on everything that 59 has to offer them.
Question for you and another comment. The Spanish proficiency assessment. Right now, if a student is not English proficient, are they defaulted into automatically Spanish proficient, or could they be not proficient in both if we went this route with the assessment?
So if you're asking current situation, practice has been that if a student is not proficient, did not pass access, or did not pass the screener, they were defaulted as, and they had Spanish as a home language, they defaulted into dual language, considered Spanish. I don't want to say they were considered Spanish proficient, but they were considered Spanish speaking.
Sure.
So therefore, they were defaulted to a one-way model. As we're looking at, again, equitable opportunities, and even through our kindergarten informational night, it wasn't about, we don't want to put students into one bucket. And if a student is a Spanish speaker, we want to be able to say, what level of Spanish do they have, which is why we were investigating a Spanish language assessment, because just because you mark Spanish on the home language survey does not mean you are proficient in Spanish, or Spanish is even spoken by you as a child. So it's really trying to identify what is the best output for that student. So giving our students the opportunity for parents to decide, is a dual language model the best model for you, or would you prefer an ESL? Because here's what both of them can offer, and sharing the benefits of both.
And then if I could just make a comment kind of on some of the communications that we had or exchanged. I am not, just to clarify, let me rephrase it. Obviously these are decisions for the administration. I just think it's more if we could have a weekly update blurb of what's going on, like with the Devonshire situation. Met with parents, discussed this, gave them options. I think that would ease a lot of our questions that we have following up as to not necessarily why weren't we, why was this not discussed with us? That's not exactly the point, but just more the knowledge of, great, you guys are having those discussions, you're having those things, because that's just what we want to see as a board, not necessarily we need to make that decision as to what's happening with the schools. This is my 2 cents. Yeah, and that's great. And it goes back to like our board evaluation. They give that really great example of it's like a dance, a school dance, and the board is in the balcony, and we are not allowed on the dance floor, like stay off the dance floor, and we just want to kind of, from our view and from there, just to see that everything's going great. And it is, but it's just kind of giving us that info so we can feel great about it.
Before you go, Dr. Perdomo, I want to congratulate you on your doctorate.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Not a hard work. Okay, we're on to item 12.0, new and continuing business and announcements. I actually have 2 of them. The first one is graduation speakers. We are still looking for a Friendship Junior High graduation speaker. Maybe Mr. Wheatley will give a shout out to an extra T-shirt maybe or something. So you received an email from Cindy Wednesday last week or so to sign up.
Who's speaking at Grove?
Dr. Sager, I think his daughter's
Okay.
graduating, so he wants to definitely maybe
I'll
embarrass
speak
his
at-
daughter. I don't know.
I'll speak at Friendship again.
You'll do the friendship. Even if you're not a speaker, I know Daisy has signed up to be at the Holmes one, and some other SLT has signed up too. If any of you are interested in going to some of the other graduations, just sign up. I cannot attend them due to potential conflicts with my daughter's schedule, but I may just show up in shorts and T-shirt and stand in the background and kind of just observe the preferences. If you're going to be there, great. I encourage that. So that's one thing. The second item is District 57 board president reached out to me. Mount Prospect has a block party in July, and they are looking to kind of get a booth to kind of like they have a Saturday kids zone from 12 to 6, and they're looking for if we'd be interested as board members to be there to answer public questions and stuff like that. There are 3 districts that serve the Mount Prospect area, Mount Prospect town, which would be District 26, River Trails, District 57, and then our district. And they're looking to see if we'd be interested in like a couple ones would volunteer an hour on a Saturday. That would be Saturday, July 23rd. I just want to make sure we're gauging interest. I mean, if I'm around, I'd love to give an hour, but I'm not going to, that's, a couple months away and I don't know my schedule yet. So it's hard to commit. But that's something that the board would be interested in, participating in.
I would love to do it, but this week I have spent
This
Monday,
is July
Tuesday,
20, this is
Wednesday.
July 22nd.
I know, but I'm just trying to tell you, all 5 days this week I've been doing district things. And then there comes a time when you have to say no, and I'm saying no to the.
And that's
July
why
one.
I'm asking to see if people are interested. I figure I'm going to bring, if I do volunteer, I'll bring my wife, let her run around, go to the food trucks or something like that, get food while I spend an hour talking to the public. And if you don't know an answer, it's okay. Maybe take a note down, or if they're asking a question from another district, you say, hey, that's not my district, but here's the person to reach out to. So, I think we'll come up with some sort of documentation of what we, things that we can come, some guidelines and stuff for those that would volunteer.
Sure.
Okay. So I'll let her know then. That's all I have on that part. Does anybody else have anything for new and continuing business?
Just real quick, especially since Principal Wheatley is here, we did visit Friendship to see a wonderful play. Oh, never mind. I was just kidding.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item.
I'm tired.
Item 13.0, special interest topics.
Since the last report to the Board of Education, District 59 has responded to and completed 2 FOIA requests.
Perfect.
Okay,
Now
14.0, reports to the Board of Education.
Awesome. Well, like I mentioned to Principal Wheatley before the meeting, well done. Those kids did a great job at their play that they had. And I believe they ran it all themselves from behind the house and front of house and ushers and the whole works. And it was just a really, I laughed out loud a lot throughout that whole thing. It was really well done. So bravo.
I would like to have been there, but I couldn't do it. because
Hold on,
of the other thing.
I was there too, and I completely agree with what Robert was saying. It was I was amazed. That was 6th and 7th and 8th graders that put that together within about a 3-month period. It was unbelievable.
Right. Dr. Bresnahan, Ryan O'Connor, and I attended the celebration for EdRed, so their 50th anniversary, 50 years, and it was really lovely. The speaker was the Dr. Carmen Ayala, our state superintendent, and then they had a what's the word I'm looking for? A panel, thank you, of very important people. One of them being our representative, Michelle Mussman, another one, Dr. Jody Meggerly, who had been your predecessor at Friendship, and she's no longer there, and our Senator Adrian Johnson, a nice group of really excellent people, and I thought the panel was excellent. I really thought that was good. So we took care of that. Also, Dr. Bresnahan and I both participated in Grove's culture bash. And her table was lovely. She has an uncle who participated by giving her all kinds of wonderful things. So she was very lucky. I had to do some research on the Netherlands, which was my country. But I'd like to tell you one thing that I learned that I didn't know. Do you know that carrots used to be either white or purple? I didn't know that. But the Dutch people decided that they should be orange. So they scientifically bred carrots to be orange, and that's how we got orange carrots from the Dutch. Also, Dutchmen are the tallest in the world. There were all kinds of interesting things that I learned, which I didn't learn from my father, who was born in the Netherlands and was Dutch. But it was very interesting. I do think that the Grove people might do it again, and if they do, I think we'll probably should advertise it a little bit more so that we get more people in the turnout. Those are the two main things. And I will continue, Randy, to be the ed red representative.
And I also attended the culture bash. I didn't get to go to your table because I had brought my two junior high students, and we planned to stay 20 minutes, and we stayed an hour and almost missed karate practice. So it was a very well done thing where you walk around the gym and check out all the different cultures. And I want to thank the parents who put a lot of effort into making that happen.
I forgot to mention that Robert and his family were there too.
Yeah.
I was very happy to see them.
So I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I just wanted to share that I will be working this summer out of my company's London office for a couple of months. I thought I would only be missing the June and July board meetings due to the timing, but I see that because I am coming back August 3rd and the hearing on the budget is August 1st, I'm actually going to miss one more meeting, but just please know I have not abandoned my post. I will keep up with district business while I'm there, and Randy asked me to join virtually, which I will not do because the meetings will start at midnight, and I am working, but I will be back for our August board meeting. And yeah, I just am grateful for the opportunity, and thanks to the board for being able to continue in my absence.
Maybe I'll watch it on video after the fact.
Yeah. Well, does that make Patty the vice president for those meetings?
I think maybe we need a new vice president now. I'm thinking about it. 2.5. Are there any reports or? All right, can I get a motion to go to closed session?
All right.
I'll make the motion. You want to do it? You wrote your name already. You do it.
You can just say items A through D.
Yes.
Be it resolved that on the 9th day of May 2022, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education recessed in a closed meeting for the discussion of A through D.
Seconded.
Roll call.
Okay, here we go. Espino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.